Oh. Alright. Should be fine. What's going on, everybody out there? This is LTMB Live. Let the madness begin. Headquarters, I'm Will Gaillard.
And I'm Mike White.
What's going on, everybody? We have a great show for you today, just like every other day, every other Tuesday and Thursday. We're going to give it a few minutes, make sure that some people can, arrive for the show, and, we'll begin just momentarily. Let us know if there are any mic problems or any video problems or anything like that. We hope there are none. We see people already filling in. I forgot to bring Facebook in, so let me bring them in.
What's up, Facebook? You are now joining the live stream. LTMB live. What?
Can't be sure. Okay, now we see the video.
Up. Dang, okay. I've never seen it take that long before.
It took a minute.
So now Facebook is in the house.
What's going on, Facebook?
You are joining the LTMB live stream with your boy Mike White and Will over here.
Holla.
Just ready to get this thing started. We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah,
we don't, not as many topics as Tuesday, but maybe some of the topics we have a lot more commentary to provide.
This is, you know, many of these stories, I feel like a lot of the time we cover stories that are ridiculous, but it feels like tonight's stories, you know, kick that up a little bit.
And they're not like ridiculous, like, oh, I don't know, like Alex Jones ridiculous, but
not to that level.
Not to that level. But, you know, there's a lot of people who have voices in the media that are taken seriously that express some very interesting viewpoints. I'll just say.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So how's everybody doing? I haven't heard anybody saying what's up.
Yeah, I know.
We see Moose Gals here. Endo.
As always, Endo is up in here.
Grandma Christine. On Facebook, what's up? Evan Miller, what's going on, man?
The usual suspects. Yes, Endo, I did see that. I think it was David Pakman did an interview with Alex Jones's ex-wife. It was weird, man. Okay. You know what, man? I don't got no sympathy for her either, man. I'm sorry. She gets as much sympathy as Melania Trump, man. Like, her eyes look crazy to me. When I was watching the interview, she has like some crazy looking eyes.
I didn't see none of that.
I watched about 3 minutes of it, and that's all I can handle. I'm like, I got other stuff that I could be reading right now. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I could devote my time to something a little more irrelevant.
Evan Miller on Facebook talking about Bernie criticizing Obama. That is a story we're gonna.
That is a story we're gonna cover, but
yeah, a little bit later.
Or Bernie criticized Obama is kind of what certain media outlets has framed his comments as, but you know, we have an entirely different take on it.
Yeah. And even if he did criticize him, that's
yeah, exactly. Even if he did criticize him, so
yeah,
what?
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna have some things to talk about on that issue.
I guess that would put us in the same boat as Bernie, then, right? Considering we have criticized Obama.
Yeah,
that would put it. Oh, but it wasn't on the 50th. Okay.
There you go, Mike. Anyway, all right. So let's get started, okay? So we're gonna begin by talking about Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, and this whole effort to secure the border.
You sighed a little bit before you said that.
Yeah, man. Like I said, it's the ridiculous show tonight, man. So we covered this on the last program as well, but we didn't know the exact military branch that was going to be deployed.
Yeah, exactly. We wanted to be sure, knowing who Trump was, like, okay, what branch does he mean? And we both knew that, yeah, he's constitutionally restricted from deploying, like, the Air Force and Navy, Marines and stuff like that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We knew that he had the grounds to deploy National Guard because Bush and Obama did it.
Right, same thing. So on Wednesday, he signed a proclamation that was ordering the usage of the National Guard to protect the border that we share with Mexico. So Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen, she spoke at the White House. She said that this situation, of course, is very important. Things around the border is very dangerous. There's illegal immigrants coming across. There's drugs coming across. This is a quote from Nielsen. She said, "This threatens not only the safety of our communities and children, but also our very rule of law on which, as you know, our country was founded."
I think there was some apprehension as to why someone from Homeland Security was talking about this, and I guess the DOJ's outlook is, well, this is about securing the homeland. So why wouldn't somebody from the Homeland Security kind of be given this, briefing, leading this effort?
She also said that the number of immigrants crossing the border illegally has risen since last year.
She give any numbers?
No, she didn't give any numbers. So I'm kind of interested in how did you ascertain that information? How did you arrive at a fact I mean, you're stating it like a fact that there's more people coming across the border than last year. How do you know that?
Well, see, it doesn't matter. They have to put something out there that kind of would justify this increase in security on the border. Now,
has to stoke fear.
It has to stoke fear, and again, this is the contextual difference from even when Bush did it and from even when Obama did it. So there's I guess, a different motive and a different situation. Trump expressed that, pretty much he verbatim was like, "Oh, I'm not getting my wall," so not verbatim, but paraphrasing.
Right.
And he pretty much said, "I'm not getting my wall, so I'm gonna send the National Guard out there." But how long is he supposed to send them out there?
I don't know. So this all started with the BuzzFeed story that was highlighting the fact that there was a caravan heading up from Honduras into Mexico, and possibly some people could be trying to make their way into the United States of America. So it was talking about an annual protest. This has been going on for about 15 years, I believe. It's an annual protest organized by the group Pueblo Sin Fronteras, or I believe what is in English is People Without Borders. So again, they've been making this journey annually for about 15 years. Most of the immigrants most of the migrants come from Honduras. About 80% of them come from Honduras, and they are fleeing a political crisis and violence. It was exacerbated with the election of Juan Orlando Hernandez in November. A lot of people saw the election as rigged, and it led to protests, it led to a lot of violence, it led to killings, it led to a military curfew. So a lot of people have been trying to flee the area. Also, there are people in this group that are trying to migrate from El Salvador, and gang violence and killings, violence, right? So most of these people, when they get to Mexico, they are trying to seek asylum. So they go to the different countries that have, that have buildings here. And they try to get recognized as somebody that can seek asylum. Now, most of these people are going to get denied, and that's already an established fact. Most of these people are not going to be crossing the border illegally. Again, they're trying to seek asylum. So that Trump is using this scenario that happens every single year for the last 15 years that most people did not even know about
as some sort of indication that this is something that is taking place every day.
Yes.
Or is commonplace.
There's a caravan coming from Central America.
So the context of him using the word caravan was kind of signified that, like, Mexicans as a caravan.
Right. Right. But it's not even Mexicans.
It's
well, okay, so he put something out there today that I think was very reckless as well. So today on Thursday, he said that women that are immigrating from Central America to the U.S. are, quote, raped at levels nobody's ever seen before. So
what?
Obviously he's talking about, because when I first read that statement, I'm like, oh, hold on. Is he talking about the women that are coming across the border? No, he's not talking about that. He's talking about the women that are coming into Mexico. Yes. And the Mexicans are raping these women.
See, again, he's doing a very good job of kind of being nondescript. He's just kind of being very vague.
Dog whistles.
Like, that's what that meant. Like, so the problem is not with the women. The problem is with these damn Mexican men. The rapists.
You remember what he said on the campaign trail?
The racist trope. It's like some of murderers, rapists, gang members.
Very bad people.
Very bad people. Some of them are good, but you know what I'm saying? He said, I'm sure there's some that are good.
Well, he said some, I assume.
My bad, yeah.
He said certain. Don't give him that much credit.
He wasn't even, that's right. He wasn't even certain.
He said some, I assume, are good people.
So basically, from the jump, they're all rapists.
Right.
And they're all murderers.
Right.
And they're all drug dealers, unless proved otherwise.
Yes. Raped at levels nobody's ever seen before. No statistics, no proof. This is an unproven kind of notion that he's just throwing out there in the wind. Raped at levels nobody has proven that. Nobody has attested to that.
actually, it sounded like he was telling the truth. They were raped at levels that no one ever heard of.
That's not what he meant. That's not what he meant.
I know that's not what he meant, but
this is a ridiculous situation because when we talk about immigration, we've recognized many times that there's a net negative. Okay, more people are getting deported, going out of the United States than people that are coming into the United States through Mexico. Okay. So to deploy the National Guard to secure this border makes it seem like the border is not already secure, which it already is.
You said makes it seem like, but you already know, through the other things that they have said, that that's what they are trying to make it seem like.
Yeah.
So it's not only are they trying to make it seem like the border is like Swiss cheese.
Right.
They're trying to make it like everyone, or for the most part, individuals who are coming over the border are they're enemy combatants, or they are like criminals, gang members, rapists. Basically, they're here to cause harm.
Right.
And so when they frame it like that, that's where they feel they have justification. But we all know this stuff is a bunch of lies and propaganda.
It is.
So that tells me that they really don't have a case. If you have to present it in that form, then they don't really have a true case.
This is your run-of-the-mill fear mongering, stoking fear. If there was some kind of alarm, like if there was really something going on, then he said that, like, Trump even stated that there was a caravan coming. Like, on Tuesday, we didn't know where this caravan was coming from. It was just something that he put out there. I didn't know about this BuzzFeed story, but it was stated that Mexico was alerted, and so Mexico wasn't going to allow these people to come into the United States. That seems like without the National Guard, you stopped illegal immigration. What is the need to... why am I asking that question? Why am I asking that question?
You're asking a question,
yeah,
hoping that you can come up with a logical answer that Trump would respond with.
Right.
And it's not there.
It's not going to be there. The governor of Oregon, Governor Kate Brown, who's a Democrat, she said that she would reject a request from the president if the president is requesting National Guard troops from Oregon to come secure the border. She said on Twitter, quote, "There's been no outreach by the president or federal officials, and I have no intention of allowing Oregon's Guard troops to be used to distract from his troubles in Washington."
Yeah, because he's looking for cooperation from, those states. Yep. And states might poke their chest out and be like, nah, we're not going to waste our resources. Because,
and there's another reason why first of all, it's ridiculous to even send them to the border, right? It's an unnecessary reason, right? But second of all, there's no clear plan. There is no clear plan. If you heard Nielsen talking, if you've heard Trump talking about, or, send tweets about it, there is no clear plan for what they're going to do once they get to the border. We don't know what their job responsibilities are going to be. So why the hell would states just willingly say, okay, we'll comply with that order. We don't know what they're going to do. They don't know what they're going to do. You don't have the clearly defined plan, but okay, yeah, we'll just send them. Just because you want to stoke fear. Nah. But of course, again, this is about dog whistles. This is about stoking fear and fear mongering to the people. But another thing, like we asserted right at first, is that Trump wants that wall. Yeah, Trump wants that wall, that border wall.
And he's just being a big crybaby right now. So when you ask why is he doing this and why there's no plan, that's why. Because if he's just kind of, applying some sort of knee-jerk strategy because he's a little upset about not getting the funding for his border wall, then yeah, there's not going to be no plan, because that's all it is a knee-jerk reaction. So you're searching for a logical reason as to why he would do this. That's the logical reason. I mean, that's logical considering who Trump is and what he has said about him not being granted his border wall funds.
But wasn't Mexico supposed to pay for the wall?
Man, he dropped that after the first month.
But see, and this is Look,
he he dropped that after the first month.
I know he did.
Once your boy was like, I'm not paying for your wall.
I know that.
You know what I'm saying?
We know that, but that was one of the main things that he campaigned on. So I'm just interested in knowing that, like, the people that are his loyalists, did you drop it? Did they drop it?
No, they didn't drop it. You know they didn't drop it. If you go to like any of the pro-Trump Facebook pages, or you go to like Daily Wire, you go to like Breitbart, you go to any of those sites, and there's any articles about the border wall, then yes, they haven't dropped it.
But it's just interesting if they're still supporting this man, right? And they're supporting this idea that the money is going to come from our Congress, like we're going to be paying for it. That's just very interesting when Trump didn't want us to pay for it, and he never sold it to the people like that. So why would you be comfortable with it now?
Again, I think you're looking for a rational answer.
Oh yes, I'm looking for rational.
So I don't think, honestly, at the end of the day, I don't think they care as long as they get the wall. They don't care if they're screwed. They don't care if, they end up, I don't know, with the short end of the stick. I think as long as they get their wall and their kind of bigotry is fulfilled, I honestly think they don't care. They just see it as a victory. You know what I'm saying? I don't think they care about any other outcome. As long as they get their wall, as long as
doesn't matter how it comes.
Yeah, as long as their irrational fears are quelched, then they don't care.
Right. All right. Well, we'll see what happens. All right. Let's move on. The Justice Department has a new idea on how to accelerate deportations. They're going to connect performance reviews of federal immigration judges to clearing those cases. So the Wall Street Journal reported that the quota, which will take effect in October of this year, they're going to set a mark of 700 cases per year that will be required to be cleared. According to the report, judges have cleared about 678 cases on average within the last 5 years. But of course, within that number, within that average, of course, there are federal judges that are clearing a lot less cases.
And here's the thing about that. I think these like immigration review judges like usually take about, from what I read, it takes about 2 years to hire them. And I think Trump and the Department of Justice wants to hire about 70 of them to kind of keep up with this pace, or the pace of deportation that they want. But like as of right now, currently, there's a backlog. Yeah. Because there's not enough judges to deal with there's
like hundreds of thousands of cases.
Hundreds of thousands of cases. Right. Like currently. And the numbers I read is that from January through March, I think detentions have increased 37%, but deportation is down 12%. So what they want to do, they actually can't do because they don't have, I guess, the proper personnel to complete this process of expedited deportation, because it has to go through a review process. They just don't have enough judges to review, and most of these cases are just going to get trapped in appeal.
So there's a few. Well, that's one outcome. That's a bad outcome. But there are a few more outcomes that are just as bad. Okay, so if you're going to set up a mark of 700 cases where it's below that right now, and like we stated, there are some judges that aren't even approaching that mark. So if they're going to have to clear 700 cases, guess what's going to happen? They're going to try to run through these cases, and due process will not be had.
So you're saying quotas might lead to the erosion of due process.
Right. So because they're going to be rushing through these cases, not really weighing the facts of the case. They're just going to be, what do they want to do? They just want to clear them, because the Trump administration wants to deport people as fast as they can.
It's kind of like if you're an officer and you're given a quota, but there are going to be some times where you're not going to be able to reach that quota organically, right? So what's going to happen is that as a cop, I'm going to like invoke my own standard of suspicion,
right?
Just so I can engage whatever perp or whatever person I want to engage with. I'm going to invoke my own sense of like suspicion so I can just reach my quota,
right?
Because I'm pushed to, you know, achieve a certain number. If I can't do that, I'm gonna do everything I can, you know, to make sure I get to that number. And most likely it's going to be some not so honest, in a not so honest way.
Really?
It's just not. I mean, if it's not organic, then you have to kind of create a situation where you can engage people. What's the difference in this case? Like you said, they're going to essentially, hey, I'm not going to review these cases with any kind of objectivity. I'm just going to rush through them so I can fulfill my quota.
Right. So the cases that are going to be heard, these defendants, are they going to really see their day in court? Are like, is the judge really going to weigh the facts and evidence? Is due process actually going to be had? One question I have about this though is, will the performance reviews of these judges, because if they don't get to that 700 number, then it's going to be unsatisfactory. They're going to get an unsatisfactory remark or unsatisfactory grade. My question is, what will that matter?
What will be
what will be the penalty?
What would be exactly? What would be the penalty? Will they be removed? Will they be?
I don't think so.
That's the thing. Like, if there's no consequence to it, then I don't think any of these judges should worry about it. And considering how long it takes to bring a judge on, to get a judge hired, which is 2 years, it's safe to say that, you know, their position as a judge is pretty safe, regardless of their performance review. I'm
sure that they don't want that mark. Like, I'm sure that they don't want a negative performance review, but
it's probably a negative review in regard to one metric.
It is, but if it
applies to their job,
but if it says that, if it means that they have to forego due process, then are they going to be able to do that? Is their integrity going to allow them to do that?
Not just in their integrity, will that come back to bite them in the butt later on? Like, what if Donald Trump is, you know, not here in 2020 or 2024, and there's still immigration judges,
right,
or immigration review judges, and a review comes up, and their record from when they were a judge during Trump, and this DOJ comes up, they could be screwing themselves for life. You see what I'm saying? So
they have to protect themselves.
They have to protect themselves.
Not the Trump administration.
They might be jeopardizing their own career. It's not like their career begins and ends as an immigration review judge with this particular Department of Justice and this Trump administration. They have to look beyond that. So it is going to be interesting to see how these judges actually respond to having these kind of quota requirements, whether it be the current ones that they're already there or the new ones that they end up hiring on.
It's going to be interesting. Like I said, this quota is going to go into effect in October, and that is per the DOJ. So I'm very interested in how, you know, what the results are going to be. Are judges actually going to comply with this order and risk, you know, or not comply with it and risk the, you know, negative performance review? That's going to be interesting to see. So anyway, all right. I think we're going to leave it right there with Facebook. Facebook, we have a lot more to get to on YouTube. We already talked about how we're going to speak about the Bernie controversy, if you can call it that.
Yeah, we leave the good stories for YouTube. So.
Yeah, man. Bernie Sanders controversy, you know, Bakari Sellers, you know, trying
Bakari
to
sell out, Bakari sell out,
trying to criticize him. Also, we're going to be talking a little bit about the teacher strike in Oklahoma, and we also have this disastrous interview with the EPA's Scott Pruitt that was on Fox News.
Boy,
and
he looked like a snake trying to like.
Oh my gosh! To say that it was disastrous and to say that it was disastrous on Fox News, That's something.
Yo, I've never seen.
That's something.
I haven't seen an interviewer kind of challenge like that in a long time,
especially on Fox News.
I'm talking about challenges like he was like, he was like hitting them with like real fast.
He went at him.
He went at him. He didn't give him a chance to like try to squirm or nothing.
Yeah, you would have thought this was on MSNBC or something. Interesting. Anyway, the link is in the description, Facebook. Just click it and you'll be taken to the rest of the show on YouTube. So we will see you there. All right. All right.
So who you want to get to first, man? The ridiculousness of Pruitt or the ridiculousness of Bakari?
Let's get to Bakari.
So, you ready to go at Bakari, man?
You know I don't like Bakari, dog.
We've done a. I don't think we've done like a story on Bakari where he was like the sole topic, the sole subject, but he has been included in some of the stories.
Yes.
I don't think we did like one where it was just Bakari sellers.
You know, I
do remember something, but I can't remember whether it was like, hey, this is.
There may have been one, but I can't remember him being actually named in the title or anything.
That's
like
what I'm saying.
But there was one. You remember when he said during the campaign, he said that Hillary Clinton needed somebody that had a progressive lean in or something, or that lean progressive or something, or had what he said, appeared progressive or something like that.
Yeah, he said. Well, we were talking about like the running mate.
Yes.
That Hillary Clinton should have, and it should be somebody that has progressive leanings. And we were our response was, wait a second, I thought Hillary Clinton was progressive. So why would that?
Why would she need
that? Like she was pretty much admitting that Hillary Clinton was a massive centrist.
Exactly, and she could not connect with progressives. So she needed somebody else to do that for her.
Pretty much undermined what he had been saying about Hillary Clinton
the whole time. But see, this was after the convention, I believe.
Yeah.
So she had already wrapped up the nomination. So now you can be truthful.
It wasn't necessary for him to maintain that illusion at that point.
No, of course not.
Okay.
No. Now he's speaking to what she needs. Like, hey. You know, now we don't have no challengers anymore. This is what Hillary Clinton needs. All right, this is gonna conflict with my earlier statements, but you know,
it don't matter now. We do that all the time.
Exactly. But anyway, okay. So Wednesday, April 4th, was the 50th anniversary of Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. 50 years ago yesterday, he was assassinated. So Bernie Sanders was in Jackson, Mississippi, and he was part of a panel, and he was asked a question in which he delivered a response. And part of the response, he said, quote, "The business model, if you like, of the Democratic Party for the last 15 years or so has been a failure." He also said, "People sometimes don't see that because there was a charismatic individual named Barack Obama. He was obviously an extraordinary candidate, brilliant guy." So because of that quote, supporters of the Democratic Party, supporters of Barack Obama, have just they've gotten their feelings hurt now, and this includes Democratic political strategist and CNN contributor Bakari Sellers. So he put out a tweet. It was early this morning, and it says, "Y'all can defend Bernie all you want. On MLK 50, his lack of self-awareness and arrogance in dismissing number 44 is wild. Bernie 2020 died 4/4/18." So he's saying that Bernie Sanders criticizing Barack Obama, the nation's first black president, on the anniversary, the 50th anniversary of Martin Luther King Jr. dying, was very insensitive. And that means that this whole idea of Bernie Sanders running in 2020, y'all can go ahead and kill that.
Is that what he did, though? Is that what Bernie Sanders did? Did he actually directly criticize Obama? Did he say, you know, Obama fucked up, and this is where he fucked up, and this is where you fucked up at? As far as I know, as far as from what I saw and heard with my own ears and eyes, he was criticizing the Democratic Party. Now, Bakari, who's an extraordinarily brilliant person, but
bright guy.
But behind that reality, see, I'm doing the whole Bernie Sanders
the whole
thing.
Yeah, the same thing. Yeah.
Behind that reality is an irrational and illogical loyalty he has for the Democratic Party.
It is illogical.
Yeah, it prevents him from seeing it's like the Democratic Party's major flaws, and so it definitely affects his ability to be objective when it comes to the Democratic Party.
He's not going to process any information well if it's critical of the Democratic Party.
His blind and unconditional loyalty, man. It's just like I just don't. To me, the question was about the Democratic Party, and the answer Bernie Sanders gave was about the Democratic Party, right?
So let me clear up what the question was, okay? Let me clear up what the question was. So Bernie Sanders was prompted, okay? He was given a question, and the question focused on millennials. The guy asking the question said that Bernie did extremely well with millennials in 2016 for his presidential campaign. He asked him how he was going to energize millennials in Jackson, Mississippi, and how he was going to energize millennials in helping to reimagine the Democratic Party going forward. That's why Bernie Sanders talked about the Democratic Party and talked about there being a guy, Barack Obama, our last president.
Extraordinary candidate.
A brilliant guy.
So he was giving Barack Obama a compliment, but he buttressed that with criticizing the business model of the Democratic Party.
Right. So basically he was saying that because of Barack Obama was such a brilliant guy and a very good candidate, a good politician, a lot of people didn't see what was crumbling underneath.
And that was because of the business model of the Democratic Party, not because of Obama. I don't see how Bakari Sellers saw it like the way he saw it, because actually it was kind of a point you and I were making almost a year and a half ago in regard to the Democratic Party and Barack Obama. Bernie Sanders just said it in a different way, because we talked about how the Democrats took for granted like how effective, how charismatic, how kind of I don't know how effective he was at I guess bringing people in. Like I think they took that for granted and thought it was about him. Like he carried them through the previous two election cycles. Like if it wasn't for him, they wouldn't have. You saw what happened with your boy Kerry. You saw what happened with Al Gore, and you saw what happened with Hillary Clinton, because they didn't have that same charisma. And so,
but Bakari Sellers, one of his main gripes is that Bernie Sanders brought up the name Obama on that day, but also Bernie Sanders went on to highlight the fact that under Obama there were massive legislative losses under him. So we gave up how many different houses of governorship. We gave up how many seats in the House, how many seats in the Senate. So all of that was under Obama. So Bernie Sanders highlighted that in his little speech that he went on for about 2 or 3 minutes, and he highlighted that this is factual information. This is information that is damaging to the Democratic Party, but it is factual. We all know that the Republicans have the Republicans have how many governorships? I think it's like 36. 6, I think.
I could be 36, 37. I can't be wrong.
It's something like that. 32. I can't remember. It's in the 30s. But of course, they have control of the House and the Senate, and there's a Republican president as well. State But again, he did not directly link that to Barack Obama. He linked that to the Democratic
Party and how they did not take advantage of, I guess, the growing economic insecurity of most of Americans. They did not take advantage of that by, I guess, putting out a message, I guess, that spoke to people's need to deal with those economic insecurities. They did not speak to that enough, and that's what he was talking about.
So basically, they didn't.
The only reason why he brought up Obama was because, like I guess that achievement of him being the first black president, also him being a good candidate, he's being charismatic, his personality. I think that's why he brought that Barack Obama up specifically, because, like, I think, like I said, me and you said this 2 years ago.
But yo, Mike, as somebody that's not black, you can't seem to criticize the nation's first black president on the day of the anniversary of Martin Luther King's assassination.
Honestly,
you can't do that, because that's racist.
Honestly,
you should be very upset.
Honestly, I think it's worse that Bakari Sellers and some of the Democrats are using Barack Obama as a shield so that the Democratic Party doesn't get criticized. That's what's going on here. It is a much worse violation than they accuse Bernie Sanders of.
But many people are saying that this is exactly the reason why Bernie Sanders lost. He can't appeal to black voters, because look here, on a day that is revered, you know, the day that Martin Luther King died, assassinated, you're going to criticize the first black president. You don't understand black America. That's why you can't get black votes. Because you remember that was a criticism of him in 2016. He didn't know how to appeal to them. In the South, he got killed by Hillary Clinton, that old guard, right? So this is the same type of thing. But if this is the same type of thing, right, then I would kind of compare this to, I guess, you know, nobody can criticize black people in February either.
Exactly. It would seem like February is a more, I guess, a month that celebrates black people
established
comprehensively.
No doubt. So the entire month of February, if you're white, you better not criticize black people, especially if you're a politician, because if you want to get black votes, you can't do that. That's what I'm hearing from Bakari Sellers. I hear it in a rational voice, man, just like I always hear from Bakari Sellers. Everything that Bakari, all along the line in 2016, probably even dating back to 2015, every criticism that I heard from him of Bernie Sanders was irrational. Now, there were several criticisms of Bernie Sanders that I believe we even talked about. Like, I don't think he ran a great, I don't think he ran a good campaign. I don't think he ran a great campaign. There were a lot of things that he didn't really highlight, a lot of things that he didn't go like full throttle on that I think he should have. So again, I don't think he ran a great campaign. There were definitely things to criticize him about. But the way that the establishment does it is like this.
Right now, your boy Bakari is looking like, I don't know. Like, I was trying to like think of a milder character to compare him to, but right now he is looking like Steven. You know who I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking
Django!
You know what I'm saying?
Steven, huh?
I mean, yeah, because think about it. Like, I ain't gonna sit there and like equate what's his name, John Candy? Was it John Candy? I'm not gonna.
No, he's talking about John Candy. No. He's talking about
Candyland.
I didn't know his first name. Okay, Candy. Yeah.
I'm not equating him to the Democratic Party, but I mean, I will say that, you know, their policies, Democratic policies, along with Republicans, have hurt the middle class, right? And that includes black people. It's the same as Republicans.
Same.
Now, I'll give the Democrat Party like credit, because I think they've been able to stave off critique because they have attempted to like protect black people from the disenfranchisement via conservatives and via Republicans.
Even if sometimes it's disingenuous.
Right. But like, you can give the Democratic Party credit for trying to protect black people from the evil conservatives and the evil Republicans. But like, their economic policies, which tend to cater to the top class, which for the most part is usually white, disenfranchises blacks.
Predominantly white. Yeah.
Prominently white. Disenfranchises blacks in a different way. You see what I'm saying? So the Democrats can't keep like holding up this torch and this mantle of, hey, we can protect you from the bad conservatives and the bad Republicans, and keep trying to like manipulate black people. But it's a tried and true tactic. That's what they do, man. They think that that's enough, while they continue to support the economic policies that hurt the middle class and black people. If only more people would see that, though. See, I remember you remember this was a long time ago. Actually, this was one of the first stories we ever did, probably in 2016. It was the woman name, I think her name is Crystal Harris, and she was on Fox News saying that black people are a slave of the Democratic Party. And we had, you know, I don't think we criticized her whole commentary, because her view was black people are a slave to the Democratic Party. What they need to do is vote Republican, as if white people haven't been slaves to the Republican Party. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like, she doesn't want to admit that reality. Yeah, exactly. There's no other alternative. There's only two sides. Exactly. So it's true that most voters have been slaves to the two-party system. So that is something that needs to be corrected. That's including black people. It's just voting for the Democratic Party. It's just the reasons and the motive behind people's allegiance is a bit different, and has a different history and has different nuances. So it's understandable that black people would kind of gravitate towards the Democratic Party, but only because black people just like everybody else are kind of caught in this false dichotomy of partisan politics and the two-party system. So it's just like everybody else. So it makes sense that they would engage in politics in the same way. The lesser of two evils. It's just the lesser of two evils within party politics, and not just in the grander scheme of things. So if people are voting, they're going to see the lesser of two evils, and that's it, because we are kind of stuck in this false dichotomy. So they're just going to vote for the people that fuck them over the least. That is the political strategy that has been in place for countless years. Or who they perceive fucks them over the least. Yeah. And like, since Republicans are more like overt, kind of, and they have a very, I would say, a more traditional angle at how they demoralize and pretty much devalue minorities, that's kind of obvious. But when you couple the Democrats in their kind of idea of economic freedom and see how that also disenfranchises blacks, it's just like different sides to the same coin. It's just that we are taught to only attack one side of it. You said minutes ago that Bakari Sellers is a bright individual, an intelligent guy, right? I don't believe he believes the things that he rambled off on that Twitter. That's why I call him Bakari sellout. That's why I call him Steve. But see, the last thing that he said was Bernie 2020 died on 4/4/18, so you right? Know what this is about. What is this about, man? This is about they just starting early this time. They are starting early because we saw a couple of other editorials that were framed kind of just like how Bakari framed it. They called Bernie Sanders' comments deplorable, and that Obama supporters were very upset. Bernie Sanders, like something Obama's legacy, criticizes. Ridiculous. You know how we can squash this? Because if we're actually talking about like MLK and 50th anniversary of his death, you don't just talk about his death, you talk about his legacy. You talk about what he stood for. That's what that panel was about. Right. So, not the color of his skin. So it was like, how long was it? Almost an hour and a half. And Bernie Sanders had 10 to 15 minutes of commentary surrounding civil rights, social justice, social activism, all of that stuff. And somehow this one little they don't care about that. They don't care about that. No, this one little snippet. Right. And it seemed like this could be taken in a way that is critical of Barack Obama. So on the day of a black man, a very notable black man's death, his assassination, you're criticizing the nation's first black president. Are you crazy? But again, that's what he's saying. Again, because that's how he's framing this kind of entire situation, even though the larger conversation surrounded activism, social justice, civil rights, and Bernie Sanders had so much to say about that. And I think linking the Democratic Party to that commentary was very important, seeing as they, in my opinion, contradict all of that social justice, all of those kind of civil rights, I guess perspectives that MLK expressed. And to kind of squash this whole thing, if we're going to like have a substantial conversation about actual ideology, actual policy, like there's going to be a few questions I have, like who is closer ideologically to MLK? Bernie Sanders or Barack Obama?
Barack Obama is closer in skin color. That's what matters.
But considering that MLK is like his whole legacy and politics centered around economic empowerment and black empowerment, whose economic policies match up with MLK?
But that don't matter, man. That don't matter.
Bernie Sanders?
Not on the day that he died, man. Not on the anniversary of the day he died, man.
Who has physically stood with working class people when they were demanding fair wages? Physically standing. Did Barack Obama do that, or did Bernie Sanders do that?
As much as Bernie Sanders wants to, he can't get his pigment at the level of Barack Obama.
What was Barack Obama's response to Black Lives Matter, Will? I ain't stopping, dog. I ain't stopping.
It was sort of dismissive.
Sort of.
It was, yeah.
He said they're just being too loud.
Yeah.
It's just tried in a different way.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, the articles I read about this supposed controversy were accompanied with a lot of responses, people's tweets, particularly black people's tweets, right?
No doubt.
But I just find it interesting that their black power just shows up right now to criticize Bernie Sanders. But I'm just trying to figure out where the fuck was their black power when Barack Obama signed the Blue Alert bill. Do you remember that bill, Will? That provided and extended further protections to police officers, not black people now, as far as being murdered extrajudiciously by cops. It provided further protections to police officers at a time when cop shootings were increasing. That was what Barack Obama did. So where's your fucking black power then to try to criticize like Bernie Sanders for saying, just having the nerve to say something about the Democratic Party and Barack Obama on MLK's death, but you didn't say shit about Barack Obama and how he almost undermined like, I guess, people's push to hold police officers accountable, almost making them giving them more power.
Look, most politics is surface based. It's not deep. It's not deep at all. A lot of people do not dive deep and learn about candidates or people that are even elected in office. A lot of people don't even know the decisions that these elected officials are making, like the votes that they're putting their voice on, or they're putting their stamp on. A lot of people do not read all this stuff. They don't get this information. So again, a lot of politics, most of politics, is surface. And what else is surface is the color of one's skin. In so many words, or not so many, in so many words, Bakari Sellers on that tweet said, "Black people, Bernie Sanders cannot be your candidate in 2020. Don't vote for him."
If anything, Bakari Sellers is tarnishing the legacy of MLK by somehow linking him to Barack Obama.
That's it. All right. Let's go to, okay, so the Oklahoma teacher strike is continuing. It's expected to continue all week. On Tuesday, the Oklahoma governor, Mary Fallin, who is a Republican, she tried to compare the teachers that are striking for, they're striking for improved conditions in the schools. They're striking for better wages. But she compared these striking teachers to a teenager wanting a better car. And that's a quote, a teenager wanting a better car. She believes that these teachers that have not had a pay raise for a decade are acting like immature, irresponsible teenagers that just want a better car?
Not just, you know, because they haven't had a pay raise in a decade, but they got textbooks that are falling apart.
Yep.
The textbooks that are falling apart, they don't even have enough of those FUBAR textbooks to distribute to the, you know, to their students. They may have half of the amount necessary. The class sizes.
Yeah. Broken furniture.
I'm actually, I wasn't even gonna mention that. I forgot about
broken furniture.
Some of these teachers have to pick up second jobs to make ends meet. Some of them have to pick up second jobs to pay their medical expenses. But none of that matters. They just wanna.
They're spoiled.
They're like teenagers who just want their car.
Yes. The audacity of this governor, because see, her and all these Republicans, they feel like, how dare you? Because we already signed a bill. We already approved of a bill that's going to give you a raise. How dare you continuously strike and not accept what we're trying to give to you graciously?
It was the largest raise in history. And I'm just thinking, I was like, wait a second. Of course it's going to be the largest raise in history when you didn't give any teachers a raise for a decade.
A damn decade.
Of course it's going to be the largest raise in history if y'all ranked 47th in teacher pay. So
see, I've seen all the way from 47th all the way up to 50th. I think the 2016 stats said that they were 49th. I believe.
So anything that they did would have probably been a record.
Anything. But see, this whole you know, comparison to a spoiled little brat, these teenagers that want a better car, it didn't work. Had a negative effect for Governor Mary Fallin. So teachers, they have been flooding the Capitol this week, and they have been like filling the hallways, all floors of the hallway of the Capitol building. And Mary Fallin, she said that on Tuesday about the, you know, spoiled brats, the teenagers that want a better car. So on Wednesday, this is a video from the teachers at the Capitol.
Where's my car? 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 Where's my car?
So they were at the Capitol building, jingling their keys, saying, "Where's my car?"
Yo, she thought, see, when she made that statement, she thought she was being funny.
Very cute.
Yeah.
Very cute.
And then she ended up getting trolled like a mug.
That is trolling. That is expert level trolling.
Well, first of all, who did she think she was messing with? These are teachers, yo. Like, these teachers tend to be expert trollers, dog.
Yeah, I know.
They have to be, because look, like, they're around kids.
They pick up on things.
They pick up on things. They have to develop like a part of themselves that, you know, stuff rolls off their back, and then they have to like respond, because you know, kids be testing them.
Of course,
dog. This is light work.
This is, man.
She's light
she
work.
Didn't expect
Taylor,
it.
she
didn't expect
how
it.
you trying to troll teachers, especially teachers that are in a united front? I'm like, yo, you asked for it.
Exactly. Like, all these teachers have a united front. They are strong together. They ain't feeling like, they're not scared of you. They know that, look, they know that you're gonna have to give in. You're gonna have to. But another thing about this, man, again, the audacity of this governor. Year after year after year, this legislature in Oklahoma has cut taxes for the big corporations, right? For big business. And it has exacerbated the failing economy in Oklahoma. You didn't say that those people, those wealthy business owners, were acting like spoiled kids and they just wanted more money. They just wanted more benefits.
You know what?
But these people that are trying to make ends meet so that they don't have to get a second job, a third job, trying to pay for their insurance, trying to put a roof over their heads. You're saying that they're acting like spoiled kids.
Interesting, because you mentioned the tax breaks and all that for the wealthy, but in 2016, in the midst of slumping oil prices, Fallin was
That's funny.
Falling. My bad. I said failing by accident.
Falling, yeah.
Maybe it was like a little Freudian slip. But she announced oil field prayer day. You remember that? Yeah, that's what it was. It was originally just for Christians, but she decided to include members of all faith because there was just the oil prices were slumping. So she took it upon herself to tell Oklahomans that there would be a state day that they can pray for the oil industry. I have a statement from her thinking like this. It says, there are many people suffering right now who've lost their jobs in the energy sector. There are a lot of families who have been hurt. And I think prayer is always a good thing for anyone. So she had nothing but compassion for those.
She felt their pain.
She felt their pain from those that are in the fossil fuel industry. But teachers just demanding, like, I don't know, like adequate environment for their students and compensation for their work.
Adequate pay.
That's out of the question.
We've noted several times that a quarter of the state's public school teachers have either quit the profession or left the state of Oklahoma because of the horrible wages and because of the conditions in school too, because of the legislature's failure to properly fund these schools.
Fossil fuel industries deserve compassion though, Will. Teachers, not so much.
Connected to this issue too, we played a video on Tuesday of Representative Kevin McDougal, and he put this video out on Facebook where he chided these teachers. He said that he was not going forward. He was not going to sign off on any other increases for these teachers in terms of pay. He said that, yeah, you can get pissed at me if you want to. But
we were behind you.
Yeah, we supported you this whole time.
Like, what?
And now you're acting like this. So, but he deleted the video. He deleted the video from Facebook. But of course, the internet has a long memory. Somebody captured it. So we played that video on Tuesday. Now the what is it? I believe it's the Tulsa World. Yeah, that publication. According to the Tulsa World, McDougal apologized for having posted that video, but
he apologized for posting the video. But he apologized for any things he said.
I don't know. I didn't see any quotes. I didn't see any quotes from McDougal. But that's not rubbing people the right way. So there's a woman by the name of Cindy Ralston who she's worked in the education field for 30 years, and she announced on Tuesday that she's going to be running as a Democrat to oppose him in this upcoming election in Oklahoma's 12th district. Her quote was, she said, "If Kevin McDougal won't fight for teachers and students, then I will. If Kevin McDougal won't back parents over oil companies, I will. If Kevin McDougal won't treat his constituents with respect and dignity, I will." So that's going to be interesting.
And that's the thing. I think that last part, respect and dignity, if you can, and I think that's the point. Like, if you can't do that, that means you're, I don't know, there's something else behind your kind of opposition to these teachers. If you can't even respectfully disagree or respectfully engage them, even like even if you're just in disagreement with them,
right,
like, then there's something behind your opposition. Why do you kind of have to antagonize them like that?
Do you, like, these oil companies in big business, they probably have better
PR? Yeah,
they have better PR, but they have better strategies at influencing these politicians, right? They have better lobbyists. They can fund these lobbyists.
They can, I guess they're invited to galas.
Remember galas? That's right? Now, the teachers.
Listen, Lucas.
Yeah, West Virginia, right?
Virginia.
But these teachers, now, of course, you know, they have a teachers union, but are they as powerful, and I guess in dollars, are they as powerful as the oil companies and other big business?
Definitely not.
No. So he's very respectful, or one would assume he's very respectful of these other corporations, of these other industries that always try to appeal to Congress, always lobby Congress
And see-
for benefits,
So basically,
for laxed taxes.
so you're saying that they are the ones that appear the most entitled.
Mhm.
Okay.
But
he doesn't
he's
have-
not treating the teachers with
Oh.
respect and dignity, though.
even though they act like the most entitled ones, he doesn't see them in the same light.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
I hope he does get voted out, man. I hope he does. This, I mean, of course, this is all throughout the state of Oklahoma. This public school strike. So I hope his words did get out there. I really hope they did. She's a candidate now, right? I would hope in whatever ad that she puts out, she uses that Facebook post. Yeah.
And I mean, if she's that's the thing. If you think about it, I mean, that's a big profession, teachers. I mean, if she runs, I guarantee you, she already has an instant base.
Exactly. And it's always disgusting when it has to come to this. It came to that in West Virginia. Now it's in Oklahoma and Kentucky. We talked about too. It might be coming in Arizona. So I think for me it's disgusting because teachers, I always said this, teachers, that's one of the professions that should be one of the highest paid professions in our country because it starts with our students. If we want whatever society that we want in America, it's going to start with the teachers educating our youth. We want entrepreneurs, it starts with the teachers. We want people contributing to society and performing their civic duties and helping the economy. It starts with the teachers. They should be paid handsomely for their efforts. And I always thought that. And I remember, when I was a kid, thinking like, why in the hell are these teachers not getting paid
because it's
like,
they're not just, and honestly, man, I mean, think about how much childcare costs. Obviously, I guess their duties and their job responsibilities go far beyond that. But what I'm saying is they actually have two jobs.
Yeah, they do.
That's my point. They actually have two jobs because they have to provide a curriculum that's going to keep kids engaged, and I guess based on the different level you teach at, that's going to I guess require different strategies. But that's what they have to do. They have to provide the kids with a curriculum to keep them engaged and learn.
Right.
Lesson plans. They have to they have to be on their most of the time they're on their feet a long time, and along with essentially what they are providing like childcare at the same time.
Right.
So they doing two jobs.
So they should be heavily scrutinized, right? They should be, right? Yeah. And I believe that they should, and I believe their pay should reflect that. I mean, because if they're going to get paid a very high salary, of course that comes with high scrutiny. I've said the same thing about the law enforcement industry, right? About police officers. I think they should be some of the highest paid earners in the country as well. But that comes along with accountability, high scrutiny.
And most of the time, like, from my experience, like parents have like been highly engaged and their child's education. Not every parent is, but for the most part, they do care about how their child's teacher engages them in the educational process. And people all over the United States make it a habit to criticize education, the Department of Education, the state of our education, good teachers, bad teachers, whatever the subject is. That subject is never a subject that people are afraid to broach, right? Think about that, because you mentioned police officers in the heavy scrutiny, and the response usually is, you're making their job harder, or it's a war on cops. Notice how that same reaction is not,
it's not applied to teachers.
It doesn't apply to teachers, even though the same level of criticism exists. Nobody's like, oh, we're on teachers. No, because I think most people see like the importance and the benefit of the profession, and they want to keep its integrity solvent. So obviously they have to have a high level of scrutiny, but no good teacher I never heard of a good teacher saying, my job is made harder because you're criticizing the Department of Education of a particular state.
Right.
Or my job is made harder because you're talking about bad teachers.
Right.
No, you know what I'm saying? I wish people took that approach that they have with education and kind of applied it to police officers as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I would wish that too, man. So let's stay on law enforcement. Let me get this. All right. So yeah. So in Brooklyn, New York, on Wednesday, police shot and killed an unarmed man named Saheed Vassell. Vassell was mentally ill. It's been described that he may have had bipolar disorder. It was known around the community and to the cops in the community as well that this was a man that had some mental challenges. So law enforcement was alerted by several 911 calls on Wednesday evening. These 911 calls described a man wielding what they thought to be a gun, all right, a silver gun, a silver firearm. And so it turned out to be that Vassell did not have a gun. Vassell actually had what looks like a shower head, or like a thin pipe with like a something on the top, like a nozzle or something like that, right? But he was shot anyway. Apparently the police officers on the scene could not tell what he was holding, and they felt like it was a gun.
It was necessary to kind of, I guess, take the target out.
Right. So witnesses that were on the scene, and his family as well, say that the police officers that were on the scene, there were 4 cops that shot at Vassell, and they shot 10 times. They shot him 10 times. 3 were uniformed, 1 was not in uniform. But the witnesses at the scene say that they never gave him a chance to surrender. They just immediately approached the scene and they shot him and they killed him. So they believe that, you know, injustice was done. So we have the video that was released by the NYPD earlier today, and it gives you some images of what was going on and why they were being called to the scene. So let's look at that video. So it's just stating that they received several calls of a man pointing a silver firearm. So you see right there, he is pointing something at somebody. It looked like it could be a gun. That's a 911 call, pointing at people's faces. Again, he's pointing at somebody walking down the street. Somebody say he looked crazy, pointing something like he's like he has a gun, making a popping sound. There's another incident right there. So this is where the shooting happened. He's approaching the intersection, and right there he takes a 2-arm stance, and supposedly he is pointing at the officers who are arriving at the scene. The NYPD states that the 4 officers were approaching Vassell, and Vassell took that 2-arm stance, and that's when the officers
they used
open fire.
Yes, the statement read as police were approaching. Right. So I'm taking that to mean what it means, that they were approaching somebody who they thought had a gun. Right. So like from the jump, let's just kind of start from the beginning, because what that video shit that we just shared, that was directly from the police department. As you saw the shield.
Well, yeah, it was shared by the NYPD, but it was surveillance video from the street.
They shared it, but we already know, just looking at it, they cut it the way they wanted to cut it. Yeah.
They paused it.
Yeah, and they stopped it. They stopped it right at the end. You know, obviously I don't want to see somebody being shot, but it's not like we haven't seen that before. Many times. I kind of want to see at that moment, not just where the shots came from and what happened after that point. They say that that's the moment he got shot. I kind of want to see if that was the moment he actually got shot. Now, officers did receive a call that a man was pointing an object at people, and there were like 4 or 5 different calls. 4 calls.
I don't know how many. I saw 3. I saw 4. Yeah. It was just several calls.
It was several calls. Yeah. And in a few of the calls, I I guess the item was described as a gun, but in a couple of them, it just said object.
Right.
And it was very detailed. It says making a popping sound or a popping noise. This information is available to the officers. Dispatch gives them this information that somebody's going around with something making a popping noise. Now, if it's a real gun, is it necessary really to make a popping noise like you're about to shoot somebody? And from the time that the officers were called, from the time that they arrived, it was about a half hour, right?
Yeah.
And from that time period of the calls to the time that they arrived, there was no reports of somebody being hurt.
Yeah, there were no injuries reported.
No injuries reported. Okay. So I don't blame the 911 callers. They see an object for a split second, and he's holding it like a gun, and it's not like you're gonna like sit there and like examine it. So I can understand that, you know, if someone's holding something like a gun and pointing it, they're going to think it's a gun.
Yeah, he's making threatening motions to a number of people on the street, and it's a silver, you know, circular object that it does look like a gun even from the video. So,
but there's
again, I don't fault these 911
There's
callers.
a 911 caller that is observant enough to know that it wasn't a gun, because if they knew it was
they
a
said
gun,
it was an
because they
object
said an
and
object
making a popping
and
sound.
making a popping sound. So and another caller was like disturbed. So there was some.
He seems
disturbed.
crazy.
Seems crazy. So again, to me, that is prompting like, hey, I'm calling 911. I'm not going to say he has a gun. I honestly don't think so. I just think it's an object, and I think he's crazy. So again, they're providing the police department with an information so that they can kind of approach it with objectivity. Like, don't approach it like already concluding what this person has. So they have provided to me enough information to not go left or right with this, like whether, or for the police department, the police officers that come on the scene, not to make a determination yet. And I think,
and that's where it's difficult, because we don't see the police officers arriving on the scene. All we can see is that Vassal takes a two-handed approach and he's pointing at something. So the police, the NYPD is saying that those officers were approaching, and that's why he took that stance. Now, I know a lot of times we talk about police brutality. We talked about unjustifiable shootings. We categorize officers as sloppy in their job performances.
It's like
bad policing,
sloppy, trigger happy, whatever.
Shoot first, ask questions later. Right now, we can't say that about this scene. We can't say that about this case because, one, we don't see the shooting, so we can't say that. And we see video of this guy actually making menacing movements, all right, menacing actions towards people that are on the street. So there is a reasonable suspicion that this guy is trying to cause harm. So, of course, like I said, I'm not going to just bemoan the actions of the officers yet. What I'm concerned about at this point is the approach that the officers took in trying to arrive on the scene.
So in a sense, we don't blame them based on the likely mindset that it was a gun. The problem we see is that people judge whether it was justified. Not just people in general, but cops are going to judge whether this was justified according to how they approached it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just seems like in a lot of cases, they are putting themselves in the position to have to shoot somebody. So we're not saying that like in that moment, maybe they did have to shoot that. Maybe they did have to shoot him. But again, like we're kind of like, since there's not enough footage available and we don't have all the information yet, like that's really all we can conclude is that if he is walking around supposedly with a gun, is it typical police procedure to approach somebody who they think has a gun
and is trying to cause harm to people on the street? That's our focus right now. I want to see what tactical approach these officers implemented, because again, like you said, if they approached him with the gun, man with the gun, several calls that are stating that this man might have a gun on the streets. Would it have been prudent for you to just rush up on somebody that has a gun, or would it have been better to take a tactical approach and maybe, you know, get behind something, yell out to this individual, put down your weapon, put down the object, you know, try to create some kind of dialogue, not create a situation in which the only option now is we have to put them down.
So yeah, so that's the question. Like, anytime these things happen, was that the only option? And in this case, based on the department's, I guess, testimony and reports, yes, that was the only option. But there's a big but there.
Yeah.
Was it the only option because they put themselves in the position to where that's the only option?
Right.
So there's like another level to it. So we are in agreement that based on what the department said and I guess the actions of the police officers, that was the only option.
Right.
But we have to ask, like, why was that the only option?
Right.
Like,
What preceded that?
Yeah, what preceded that? So if you put yourself in a position to where that's the only option, well, then that's what's going to happen.
Exactly.
It's kind of I think we spoke about this before the show, and I said it's kind of like that with that white teenager. He was 17 or something like that.
That was in South Carolina.
South Carolina,
Upstate, yeah.
a little white teenage kid. He got shot through the driver's side window,
right.
And the officer involved in the scene,
Zach something.
Yeah, it was Zach. Yeah. The officer involved in the scene said that Zach tried to run him over and he feared for his life. But now when the video was released, the car was actually driving away. He put himself in position to be hit by the car, and actually it wasn't even to be hit, it was on the side. So he shot him through the driver's side, and said that, oh, he was trying to hit me.
Right.
And so again,
and he was never charged.
He was never charged. So again, that was a situation where he was trying to put himself in the position to where that was the only thing to do, and to where that justified the shooting.
Right.
And that's
basically, he was being lazy. He didn't want to perform his duties as a police officer and actually have to chase the individual, because the individual was in a car getting away. He didn't put the officer's life in jeopardy at all, but this officer wanted to bring this whole situation to an end. Fastest way to do that is just to kill the suspect, and that's what he did. We all know that, and we've said it many times before, officer's job is very hard. And we understand that every day. I mean, like, they signed up for this job. They know that when they go out there on the streets, it's a dangerous situation. You don't know what somebody might have. You don't know what you're walking into. We completely understand that. It's the same thing with military officers. You know, when they get in the field of battle, anything can happen. You don't know what, they may lose their lives. They sign up for this job, right? So we want officers to take every precaution that they can so that they don't endanger themselves. And what we're saying is that without the evidence, because we didn't see it, we would have a problem if the officers did not take every precaution to not put themselves in the way of harm, and to create a situation where the only option is deadly force.
Because think about it. Where were they? They were in a city, heavily populated city. And judging from a lot of cases that we've covered, it would seem that sometimes these officers do not have good targeting skills. You know what I'm saying? They're hitting the person maybe 30 to 40% of the time.
Right.
They unload their clip. They unload their whole clip.
This is in Brooklyn, New York.
New York. So they can unload their clip and maybe only hit the person 3 or 4 times.
So where them other bullets
going? I think that's another part of it we were like looking at too. I mean, you're in an area that has a lot of pedestrian traffic. So I think, you know, when you're looking at tactics to try to neutralize the situation, you'd probably be a lot more careful. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I just thought it was a little odd that they would approach him if they thought it was a deadly weapon. You know what I'm saying?
It doesn't make sense. Again, it doesn't seem to be good tactics. It doesn't seem to be a good tactical approach. It doesn't seem to it wouldn't seem to me like that was effective training. If you were going by training, like, something needs to be done. Because you're putting yourself at risk, and by putting yourself at risk, you're putting other people at risk, because the only option you're going to have to do is to remove that risk with deadly force. So again, all of this is without the video evidence, because we have not seen the exact moment when Vassal was killed. We haven't seen the officers arrive on the scene, so possibly they were wearing body cams. And that footage haven't came out yet.
I think the articles that I read said that all of the officers weren't wearing body cams. So there were body cams somewhere being worn, but not, there was, most of the officers that were involved in that situation were not wearing body cams. So there's going to be angles and footage that we will never ever see.
Well, if there was surveillance footage from that particular block,
there was some more.
Yeah, there was more.
It is a heavily populated city, so
you know there's some video footage that caught the officers.
So, but they only released that footage from. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
All right. So connected to, we're going to connect this court ruling to this story. So on Monday, the U.S. Supreme Court voted in favor of an Arizona police officer who shot a woman outside of her home. This is the case of Casella v. Hughes. That was in front of the United States Supreme Court. So back in May of 2010 in Tucson, Arizona, Officer Andrew Casella shot Amy Hughes 4 times after she declined to she didn't comply with lawful orders of not putting down a weapon that she had. So she emerged from the house, her own house, and she was armed with a knife. Just a knife, not a firearm or anything like that. She had a knife to her side. Okay, so Officer Casella told her numerous times to drop the knife. She didn't. So he shot her, and he shot her 4 times. Now, thankfully, Amy Hughes did not die. She survived the incident, but she felt like her rights were violated, so she sued. Now, a little bit more information on the incident. Officer Casella was not right in front of Amy Hughes. Amy Hughes did not make a threatening motion to him or anything like that. Officer Hughes was actually behind the chain link fence and shot through the fence at Hughes 4 times.
Yeah, there are some houses that actually have a fencing in the front, like right where the curb or the sidewalk is. And that's where he was. He was behind this fence. If you can, I guess, imagine it. Somebody is behind the fence, or this officer is behind a fence, and there's a lawn, then there's a porch, and that's where she was. Many feet away.
Yeah, they were not close to each other.
They were not close to each other, but he still opened fire on someone that was holding a knife.
Yes,
and it was described as a kitchen knife.
Not a
samurai sword, or
not a projectable,
not a machete.
Nah, the knife was by all accounts, it was not motorized. It didn't have an engine or anything like that.
It didn't have an engine on it. It wasn't attached to a projectile.
It was a knife. It was a knife, and she was holding it to her side. She wasn't no, it was
coming
none of
straight
that.
for him.
No, it was nothing like that. And he had a fence.
He had a fence
between them.
A fence.
But he fired anyway, and like we said, thankfully she did not die. She survived. But anyway, so she sued. And on Monday, the Supreme Court ruled that Casella was entitled to qualified immunity. Qualified immunity, which is a legal doctrine that says police are immune from excessive force lawsuits as long as they don't violate, quote, clearly established rights that a, quote, reasonable person would have known.
Okay. All right. See, they're trying to use legalese and legal language as a way to kind of be dismissive about this case. But in doing so, they're actually, proving the opposite point they're trying to make. Because what does it say? A reasonable person?
Yep. Yeah.
A reasonable person would
They
have
don't
known.
violate clearly established rights that a reasonable person would have known.
Okay, so now they're adding, I guess, when I say reasonable person, now you're kind of putting regular people and civilians into this,
right? Because he didn't say regular.
He didn't say a reasonable police officer,
right,
a reasonable.
Right.
He said a reasonable person. So now that justice is introducing scenarios that now we can place regular people in. And if I am walking down the street in the neighborhood and someone, just random person, comes out on their porch with a knife on them and just and starts screaming and holding up and says, "Hey, I'm gonna get you. I don't like you. I'm gonna stab you in your butt cheeks." Something. I'm gonna get whatever it is. They could be talking junk and yelling and being crazy or whatever. But that wasn't even the case with Hughes. She was just kind of standing there with a
jump shot whack.
Yeah, I know, right? You can't even dribble. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's like you can't dunk. You know, just talking trash.
Yeah.
Like, but with a knife in their hand, and they are 20 to 25 feet away, and they're on their porch, and there's a fence in front of me. And I take out my gun and I shoot them. Not only do I shoot them, I shoot her or him, and I call the cops because I feel that my life was in danger.
Well, then you would definitely qualify for what was it called? Qualified immunity. You would be subject to qualified immunity, right? And you would not be taken to jail. Yeah, right.
I don't think so.
You would be taken to jail swiftly.
Yo, I guarantee you the cops would come and be like, "Yo, why'd you call us?" Like, you just shot somebody on their porch when they were just holding a knife. And you were behind a fence. We're going to need you to put your hands behind your back because you're being arrested for attempted murder.
Yes. Clearly. Like the part that is just surprising to me is that if they don't violate clearly established rights that a reasonable person would have known, right? Isn't a clearly established right the right to live? Exactly. Isn't that a clearly established right? There was no threat to this officer with this knife that was feet away and that was separated with a fence.
Maybe. I don't know, man. Maybe we don't have, all the information about Miss Hughes. You know what I'm saying? We don't know her. We don't know her background. She could be like an expert professional dart thrower. And she could have easily took that knife and chucked it.
And got through the fence too. Like one of the little holes?
Not just through the fence, able to pierce his skin to induce maybe a life-threatening injury. Could happen.
Precision.
See, we don't know who Miss Hughes is. She can be like, I don't know, she could be like a ninja. I was about to say, man.
Ninja. So in a dissent, Justice Sonia Sotomayor and Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, they both said together that this ruling, quote, sends an alarming signal to law enforcement officers and the public. It tells officers that they can shoot first and think later, and it tells the public that palpably unreasonable conduct will go unpunished.
Yeah. Yes.
They are exactly right. This is a like a Batman signal to all the police officers across the country that you can shoot whoever you want to, even if you kill them, as long as you don't violate clearly established rights.
Whatever that, like, that's so vague.
Then you will get qualified immunity. There is nothing that the victim can do to you.
Yeah, it kind of
there is no legal recourse whatsoever.
Yeah, it's setting a precedent that can make all police shootings legitimate under like any circumstances, regardless of circumstance.
Right. So this is why what California is doing is important too, and we covered that on the last program. They're trying, there's a bill that's being proposed that would change the rules of engagement. The I guess the situations where an officer is allowed to use death. I mean, you use lethal force, and they're trying to change it from reasonable to necessary. Okay, so that's very important because anything can fall under reasonable if it's reasonable for the cop himself or herself to feel like they're threatened.
Not actually anything having to do with reason at all, because reason is just a kind of a vague euphemism for whatever the cop thought was reasonable, and not some actual objective standard of reason.
Yes, so, you're actually like expecting the cops to be psychics and predict what's going to happen, and you're relying on that. Like whatever the cop feels is okay.
So at a time where there's like so much focus on questionable actions by police, heavy discussions about a police accountability, it seems that this is going to create a situation where there's less accountability.
No doubt, man. Like I said, there's a giant Batman signal in the sky that is going out to all the police officers across the country, and they are feeling very comfortable and very protected by the U.S. Supreme Court now, because they know
the highest court.
Yeah, the highest court of the land, right? So they know now that whatever they do, as long as they don't violate clearly established laws, they're untouchable.
But like, this is just talking about a particular case involving a shooting, though. But I think I know the discussion about police brutality goes way beyond shootings. There's 100 times more cases that just involve just brutality in general, right? So why wouldn't it apply to that? You see what I'm saying? Why wouldn't that same precedent apply to just any situation that involves police brutality and not just somebody being shot?
So the case that we covered a few weeks ago, Johnny Jermaine Rush, the guy that was guilty of jaywalking.
Yeah.
And the officer tackled him and was punching him in the face a bunch of times. That brutalizing. Why wouldn't it apply to him?
Why wouldn't it apply to that? Why does it just apply to shooting? To me, it wouldn't just apply to shooting. This just particular case that got taken to the Supreme Court because a lawsuit was filed involved shooting. But the same, I guess the same perspective could be used for any instance where there's some sort of accusation of police brutality. You see what I'm saying?
Another case that we covered recently too was the case of DeCynthia Clements, where the officers had about an hour to discuss different techniques that they might employ so that they don't kill her, but they ended up using one technique anyway, and that was just using deadly force to kill her, and that's what they ended up doing, even though they had an hour to discuss other measures. They had shields, they had a K9 unit, they had multiple officers on the scene, they had rubber bullets, they discussed all of this, but they ended up shooting her. So I guess what the Supreme Court is saying, the U.S. Supreme Court is saying, is that they are justified in their actions as well.
Remember the story we did about the head stomper?
Officer head stomper.
Officer head stomper. I mean, does he get qualified immunity? Do he get qualified immunity to stomp on that suspect's head?
Because it was what is reasonable to him.
It was reasonable to him.
All right, let's move on. All right, so let's get to this interview, man.
Oh man, I thought we would never get here.
Oh my.
This is a doozy.
Yeah, this is a doozy. All right. So the embattled EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt appeared in a disastrous interview on Fox News with Ed Henry on Wednesday night. So Scott Pruitt has had multiple controversies surrounding him recently. And he's only agreed to a few different interviews. And of course, these interviews have been with conservative outlets. He doesn't want to talk to CNN or MSNBC, Washington Post, New York Times, nothing like that. He wants an interviewer that's going to try to loft him some softball so he can really get his story out and get some sympathy. That's what he wants to do. That is not what happened. Again, to say that this interview was disastrous is not even doing it justice. Ed Henry went after Scott Pruitt time and time again. So we have a few clips from this interview, but first we're going to start off with this claim that Scott Pruitt used a rental location, and he was only charged $50 a day when he stayed there. Okay, now the rental property. It was the rental property. Well, okay, let me put it like this. The wife of a lobbyist rented the rental property out to him. Okay, the lobbyist works at a major lobbyist firm, and whose clients, one of the clients is ExxonMobil. Now, Scott Pruitt says that ExxonMobil did not have any business. Well, no, actually, let me refrain from saying that. He didn't say ExxonMobil did not have any business in front of the EPA. He said that the lobbying firm, the law firm, did not have any business in front of the EPA. He said it was ridiculous to try to go to like third parties and like, this husband and who he works for, he doesn't represent, ExxonMobil. So that has nothing to do with anything. Even if you can connect the dots and they're really close together, that has no bearing on any kind of corruption or anything like that. There's nothing that we should be talking about.
So the lobbyist that works for a large corporation has no connection to that corporation.
Basically. Because it was the wife that rented the property to him. The wife, the husband, ExxonMobil. That's a short little diagram to draw.
That's a small degree of separation.
Yeah, exactly. But from what Scott Pruitt says, there's no corruption here at all. He also says that the rental property that he was staying at, he only rented one room, okay? He only rented one room, so it was fair market value. He equated it to renting or staying at an Airbnb.
But see, he equated it and then tried to create an hypothetical situation that could be true. But he never said that that's what he actually did. He mentioned something about Craigslist. It all happens all the time. You go, you can find all kind of, you can find cheap rooms on Craigslist. And
for the same price.
Ed Henry was like, well, Ed Henry did the equivalent of, bruh. Like, he didn't say that, but like you can tell in his face, it was like, bruh.
Because he said he's been living there for 25 years. He's never seen a property like that.
He said like at the least $2,000.
Yeah, he said average is about $2,000 to rent a one bedroom place. He said in DC.
Pruitt was like, go on Craigslist. You can find them for $50. But notice he didn't say in DC.
He didn't.
So Scott Pruitt was, I guess creating some sort of hypothetical situation where he could find some sort of something for $50 a night on Craigslist. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm pretty sure you can go on Craigslist and find somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere
for $50 a night. You can probably find somewhere for $25 a night.
But in DC,
like I'm like, no one's denying that that's not possible. But is that what you did in this case?
But so he said that. The ethics office and the EPA reviewed the lease and they determined that it was fair market value. There was nothing inappropriate here, nothing at all. Now, Ed Henry noted that at the time of him staying at the place, the ethics office didn't know anything about this. It wasn't until after he moved out that the ethics office got involved, and then they reviewed it and they were like, oh, okay, yeah, you're clear here. Yeah. So it's like, well, hold on. If you thought something was if you thought it might have been improper, why didn't you seek the approval of the ethics office beforehand? $50 a night? Really? Like, and he kept saying that this is only one room, man. You can't equate it to like, $2,000, $2,000 a month rent. I was only staying in one room. If you rent a room, it's $2,000. That's the average. It's like this dude was not putting the pieces together, of course.
Oh no,
purposely.
Not only was he not putting the pieces together, he was taking the pieces and going like this. He was taking the pieces and just like.
So it was at this point that Ed Seller. Well, it was at this point that Ed Henry asked him about if this had happened under a different president, would the situation be different? So we have that clip for you to see.
So in terms of draining the swamp, do you think if an Obama cabinet official rented an apartment here in Washington from the wife of a Washington lobbyist, you don't think Donald Trump and
you know what
Scott
I think
Pruitt
about
would
it?
say
You know what I think about
disaster?
it, Ed? You know what I think about it, Ed? They weren't even looking at those issues back then.
Well,
There
we're looking at them now.
are members of Congress that have for years rented rooms on Capitol Hill, just the C Street area.
So it's a swamp. You've
No,
said
no,
it's a
no,
swamp,
no,
Donald Trump.
no.
But you're not changing
No,
it
here's
then. You're doing the
Ed,
same thing they did, you're saying.
Ed,
if
the
they
fact
did
of
it,
the
it's
matter is-
okay for you.
No, I didn't say that. I'm
You
not
just
saying that at
said
all.
congressmen have been doing it. You said if the Obama people did it, the media wouldn't cover it. So if it happened before, why aren't you changing?
So Ed, here's the point I'm trying to make. You asked me whether would have been criticism with respect to previous cabinet officials and Obama. The fact of the matter is nobody's even asking the questions back then. Here's why they weren't. Because they weren't getting things done like this administration.
Oh my God.
Yo, did you notice like he sensed, right? Like Ed Henry is smart. Yeah. Like he was ready for these little kind of like half-assed, like vague deflections because Pruitt was like, because he asked like, hey, what if it was another administration? Pruitt's answer was, well, the media wouldn't be covering it. And I'm just like, wait a second. You are essentially saying the media should cover it.
Yeah, you're admitting that there's a problem here.
And you're admitting that the media should be covering it.
Yes. So the media is covering it here. And so your response is, well, hey, the only reason they're covering it is because, they didn't get anything done, but we're getting stuff done. That still doesn't point to the corruption angle. No matter if you think like the Obama administration did nothing during this time, it doesn't mean that it wasn't a corrupt incident.
And again, I don't think he expected Ed Henry to come back.
No, he did not.
He did not expect Ed Henry to come back and be like, wait a second, that makes no sense. Like, you highlighting that the media wouldn't have covered it is essentially saying, hey, the media covering it is legitimate, and this interview is well placed.
Exactly. He's saying that, hey, it did happen too. Well, okay, this whole administration is about draining the swamp, right? Yeah. So if it happened then, and you don't want it to continue happening, then you wouldn't engage in the same type of practices, right?
But then he took Ed Henry's hypothetical to mean that it was going on. You see how he responded? Like, I was like, no, Ed Henry did not say it was going on. He said, if it was going on.
Right.
Like, Pruitt, like, answer, like, was as if Ed Henry said it did go on and it wasn't covered. So Pruitt's answer was like kind of confusing. I was like, no, that was hypothetical, dude.
He's just trying to get out of it, man. That's all he's trying to do. But Henry was not letting him out.
I like how Henry did not let an answer sit. Because sometimes when you just let him answer, because
that could have been a softball. That could have been a softball. He could have just lofted it up
and just let it go. But he was like, oh, nope, like that don't, he's like,
rebuttal.
That don't make sense. It was like a snap judgment. It was like, that didn't make sense. I'm gonna address it right here. I'm not gonna let you dig this interview into like this hole that we can't get out of. I'm not gonna let you control this interview and let you go off on tangents and create this nonsensical narrative to where I would then have to devote so much time to get out of that hole. He just like attacked it like after every single little comment, which I think allowed us to see how Scott Pruitt is a straight snake.
He is, man. He's just trying to save his own skin, man. That's all he's trying to do. So then after that, the conversation went to these pay raises. And that's something that we discussed on the last program as well. So it was reported that there were 2 staffers in his office that were given pay raises that the White House did not approve. Now, regular order is that the pay raises have to go through the White House. Well, in early March, they approached the White House to give these 2 staffers a pay raise. The White House declined it. So that's when the EPA they have an authority under the Safe Drinking Water Act. So it exempts certain employees from civil service rules, and that helped them gain the pay raises for this one man named Milan Hupp, and the other one is Sarah Greenwald. So this segment right here is about the pay raises. So we're going to play this, and then we're going to come back and talk about it.
Why did you go around the president and the White House and give pay raises to 2 staffers here?
I did not. My staff did, and I found out about that yesterday, and I changed it.
So
PPO process should have been respected, and I issued a statement yesterday walking back those pay raises that should not have been done.
somebody being fired for that?
That should not have been done. And
Who did it?
It may be there would be some accountability.
A career person or a political person?
I'll have to. I don't know. I don't know.
You don't know? You run the agency. You don't know who did this?
I found out about this yesterday, and I corrected the action.
So
and we are in the process of finding out how it took place and correcting it.
So hang on.
Forward.
Both of these staffers who got these large pay raises are friends of yours, I believe, from Oklahoma, right?
They are staffers here in the agency.
Then they're they're friends of yours.
Well, they serve a very important person.
And you didn't know that they got these large pay raises?
I did not know that they got the pay raises until yesterday.
Okay, one of them got a pay raise of, let's see, $28,000. The other was $56,000. Do you know what the median income in this country is?
No, what is it?
$57,000 a year.
Okay.
So one of your friends from Oklahoma got a pay raise that's the medium income.
They did not get a pay raise. They did not get a pay raise.
They did.
No, they did not. They did not. I stopped that yesterday.
So you stopped it.
Yeah.
Are you embarrassed that
it should
you
not
run
have
this agency?
It should not have happened. And the officials that were involved in that process should not have done what they did.
So
they should not have gone around PPO to use whatever the presidential personnel office. And look, there was authority to do it. It was not a legal issue. There was authority to do it, and it should not have been done.
Yeah, this dude cracks me up, man. But again, Ed Henry is going after this guy. So he brings up the topic of these pay raises. And just to give people a little bit more clarity on this. So Hupp was given a pay raise from $86,460 up to $114,590. Sarah Greenwald was getting $107,435, and she was taken all the way up to $164,200. These are massive pay raises.
That's why Ed wanted to be clear to Scott Pruitt that, look, that's a massive raise. That's why he asked him. He's like, yeah, do you know what the median income is? Mm-hmm. And I was like, those raises, the raise itself, not what they were already
not
making.
What they were making, just the raise itself.
The raise itself was, you know,
the median income.
Was the median income. Like some people make more, some people make less. So it's for a large part of the country, the raise was more than they make in a year or 2 years.
In a year, man. Yeah. And then, so he's saying, hey, so these two people, they're from Oklahoma, they're friends of yours, right? He's like,
they're important. They're important members of the organization. They're important members of the team.
I don't want to answer that.
He didn't want to answer that, John.
I don't want to answer that. But then, so he's trying to get some clarity on, okay, so how did this happen? He's like, well, I didn't know what happened, and I revoked it, so it's not happening anymore. I removed that, so it's not being done.
So who did it?
Who did it?
Who did it?
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
We haven't got that far yet. So wait a second. So how? You just said you took it away.
You took it away.
You say you fixed it. You say you rectified it. But in order to do that, wouldn't you have to know who did it? He said it's been handled. He took it away. He said he took it away.
Obviously not.
So how do you take something away? How do you handle a situation? How do you rectify it without knowing who did it?
No, he said they're in the process of finding out the information. So there's an investigation that's taking place right now.
So wait. He's in the process of finding out, but he already handled it. He's in the process of finding out, but he already took away the raise and stopped it.
Yo,
how do you?
Isn't this dude the administrator of the EPA? Don't you think he would probably know who has the ability to raise these wages?
Well, he just said. Remember, he said himself.
It could only be a few people, right?
He said we had the authority. It's just that was wrong. It got done.
Yeah, it wasn't a legal concern. We have the authority.
We have the authority, but it shouldn't have been done. So again, he knows who in his staff has the authority to do that.
Mm-hmm. And Ed Henry was like, "Anybody been fired? Anybody been fired?" We don't know.
It's probably him. probably why.
Because come on, man. There's no way if this happened, because this thing started back in early March when the EPA tried to go through the White House to get these pay raises. So you're telling me from the beginning of May you didn't know that there was an effort to raise these two staffers' pay and that it was declined by the White House, and then there was an effort to go around it,
and they just so happened to be your friends.
Your friends
from Oklahoma.
Come on, man.
And the thing is, he said again, he says it's been handled. And so again, just like any responsible, not just actually journalist, a responsible person that has common sense, who's being given these answers, Ed Henry is like, okay, has somebody been fired?
He didn't answer that.
He did not answer
because he doesn't know who did it.
Well, he can't fire himself. That would look weird. That's probably why. But again, as head of the EPA, isn't it his job to, you know, once he found out what's going on, if something has been handled, him taking the raise away, right, is not handling it completely.
No, not completely. That's just one aspect of it.
That's just one aspect. It wouldn't handle it also surround holding somebody accountable.
Right. Some kind of punishment, something. To make sure that this doesn't happen again, right?
He could have gave an answer. He could have actually lied. Because see, since it was him, he can't, you see what I'm saying? Ed say, hey, did you fire somebody? You know what? Scott could have said, like, no, we didn't fire somebody, but we
handled it in-house.
Handled it in-house or
something. They're being reprimanded, or
demoted, or they have to, I don't know, you know, do some sort of, like, I guess their administration's version of community service. Something. I don't know. He could have made up something, but he was like, he didn't have an answer because it's him who did it. He gotta go fire himself.
You remember the Ted Cruz thing where Ted Cruz, his account liked the pornographic post on Twitter?
Yeah.
And he was like, it wasn't me.
Member of my staff.
It wasn't me. It was,
one of my staff. But
I'm not going to out the young man.
A lot of my staff members, they have access to my account. I mean, I may know who it was, but I'm not going to embarrass them like that. But
yeah,
there's a big but here.
What?
What account was it from?
Oh, it was his own account. It was his personal account. It was his personal account. Yeah, look, Scott Pruitt knows exactly what happened. Okay, so in this last video that we're going to show you, it's about accountability, because Ed Henry throughout this entire interview was saying, are there any mistakes that you have made during your time as the head of the EPA? And Scott Pruitt the whole time was saying, well, no. He pretty much said no the entire time. So this last video addresses that.
You challenged me at the very top and said, I haven't made, you know, there were not problems. I'm not in trouble, I believe you said. When people are going around you and giving a pay raise of $56,000, you don't know about it until yesterday, and the White House is furious?
Do you know today, Ed, I still don't have a deputy at this agency? Okay. Do you know that I didn't get a general counsel until December?
Is that because the Senate Democrats not approving?
Do you know that I still don't have heads of my chemical office and my land and emergency management? Do you know that I didn't have leadership? The first month or two I was here, I literally had a couple of folks, my chief of staff and my assistant.
So we know the Senate Democrats have obstructed.
No.
They blocked your nominee.
This is a very important point,
Sure,
Ed.
go for it.
So when you have no staff, or you have a deficiency of staff, the deputy of the agency, the number 2 of the entire agency, in April of 2018, I still don't have. And you want to come in here and say that, Scott, you've got to know about all these issues when I don't have, that's what the deputy is focused upon.
Oh, man, poor Scott Pruitt. See, he doesn't have the staff in-house so he could know all this information. He doesn't have a number 2 guy. So if he had a number 2 guy, then he would have known. But what's interesting to point out is that earlier in the interview, before he made this statement, he stated to Ed Henry, he was noting the successes.
They've been getting a lot of stuff done.
Yeah, they've cut regulations. They've saved like over $1 billion.
$1 billion to the taxpayers.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we don't know.
What because of the cutting regulations, just automatically just benefits taxpayers.
I guess because they don't have to spend that money, but we don't know what they're going to spend that on. Then.
Yeah, I know.
That saved money.
Yeah, no, it's not specific.
But anyway, he was highlighting the successes under his stewardship at the EPA. But now, when Ed Henry says, hey, you're the head guy. You didn't know what was going on? You didn't know that these two were getting insane amounts in pay raises? Well, hey, man, I don't have a deputy, man. Hey, man,
and he corrected
I don't have
Ed.
this. I don't have this. I don't have this.
He corrected Ed, and it was like they didn't get the raises. Remember?
Oh,
He
yeah,
corrected
didn't get the
him.
raises,
You didn't see that.
Yeah, no, that was in the earlier.
That was an early one. He said they didn't get the raises. And it was like, wait a second. I thought you said how do you stop something that didn't happen? He said, I took them away. I stopped them. But how do you stop something that you claim didn't happen?
Yeah, because we don't know exactly when those pay raises were put on the book, so we don't know if they actually did get a check at their new salary. We don't know
if it actually came in direct deposit or not.
Yeah, I have no idea. But it's just laughable that this guy is saying like, "Hey, man, it's not my fault. It's the fault that we don't have this office properly staffed. That's why I don't know what's going on in my own building."
Okay, fine. Okay, you don't have all these positions filled. You don't have a guy in the second highest position in the department, in the agency. Right. Great. But what does that have to do with your response? That's my point. What does that? Okay,
with the I don't know.
What does that? Again, what does it have to do with the response? Meaning, like, hey, you took it away, but you didn't do anything about it. That you didn't. Nobody got punished. No accountability.
You're just not accepting his answer. See, there's an investigation going on currently. He's trying to find out who did this, and then he's gonna make moves.
This is definitely not a where in the world is Carmen Sandiego.
That's what I was gonna say too. He's got to go to this country.
Gotta go to No, this is not one of those.
I think it would probably be a very simplistic process to find out. Again, there's probably only a handful of people that have the authority to do this, and it's probably some kind of transaction. Like there was some movement, right? Like there was probably something in the computers you had to do, or maybe some form you had to fill out. Somebody signed off on it, and you would either see their username or their signature on something. I don't think that's not going to be hard to find out. But again, the whole thing about poor Pruitt and how poor Pruitt and how his this deficiency at his office is not properly staffed. Right after he said that, Ed Henry talked about Albert Kelly. Okay, now we talked about Albert Kelly, I believe it was last year. Now Albert Kelly is the guy that is overseeing the Superfund program. Okay, and that's who Scott Pruitt brought on to see it, right? To oversee it. Now Albert Kelly has a somewhat complicated past, right? So Albert Kelly, he was banned from the banking industry for life by the FDIC. It was reported that he violated some regulation or violated some law. On The Intercept, it said the FDIC had reason to believe that Kelly violated law or regulation by entering into an agreement pertaining to a loan by the bank without FDIC approval. So he was banned for life from the banking industry. Scott Pruitt brought him on board to oversee the damn Superfund program. And Ed Henry was like, why would you do that, right? And he said what the overseeing of the Superfund lacked was management and leadership. Management and leadership.
Yo, man, Will, those are very, very hard qualities to come by. You cannot get management and leadership from just anybody.
You gotta get somebody.
To bring somebody on who was like guilty of some sort of high crime. That's the only way, because there's nobody else that has those qualities.
So this guy had no experience like doing anything EPA related. He had no experience in the science field or the environment, nothing like that.
He was just trying to find the right guy for the job.
Management and leadership. But so Ed Henry was like kind of like really, like, you're gonna pick a guy like that? So what Scott Pruitt decided to do after that was saying, hey, look at the many successes we've had with the Superfund program. So again, we've saved over $1 billion, right? That's a success under my leadership, and the Superfund program is doing extremely well under my leadership. But these pay raises that somebody else did,
so basically,
I don't know nothing about, is because we're not properly staffed.
So somehow he's able to do all these great things without being properly staffed.
Yes, he can do
tremendous
things.
tremendous work.
Yes,
but
all over the place.
He just can't figure out. He just can't figure out and can't, keep track of when funds are misappropriated.
But the Atlantic, which is the one that broke the story about the pay raises, they can find out. But you don't know?
I mean, it almost seems as if we have a person who is in the Trump administration who is kind of using their position for personal gain. And
you think?
I mean,
you think, man?
It's unprecedented.
The swamp gets swampier, right?
Swamp gets.
I think what did we talk about the last show? Like you can't see the track marks, right?
Because you can't. Yeah, you can't see the track marks. It's you.
Because
or actually, you see the track marks and you're like, where is these damn track marks coming from? So you can't see the mud dripping off you.
Hey,
he tracked all this into the White House.
The Obama administration, they were swampy. And shoot, they wouldn't have covered it.
You know what? You think about it. He made it a point that none of these positions are filled. He probably doesn't even want them to be filled anyway, because we already kind of sense that he wants to dismantle the EPA's effectiveness already.
No doubt.
So he doesn't even care about filling these positions.
No, he doesn't. This was all an effort to save his own skin and get some sympathy to the conservative crowd. But Ed Henry,
those damn Democrats and leftists,
Ed Henry had other designs, man. He had other plans for him.
No, the organization the original organization that brought this to light was a conservative group. So, no.
And there are some Republicans that are calling for his ouster too. They're saying that either he should be fired by Trump or he should resign because he's clearly incapable of performing his duties.
And I'm just saying,
I guess without corruption.
And mugs have been fired and let go for less.
Yes, they have. Look, that was only about 3 minutes of an interview that was about 25 minutes.
Yo, it was about 25 minutes.
It was about 25 minutes.
I could take about, once I got to the 18-minute mark, I was like, man.
I watched the whole entire thing, man. It was, like I said, to say disastrous is underselling it. He couldn't have come off much worse if he was on MSNBC or CNN. Ed Henry, he did a good job at not just letting him skate through that interview being unchallenged.
When's the last time you saw an interview like that?
Even on any other network, right?
No, it's been a while since I've seen. I mean, Jake Tapper does some good interviews, but I've never seen somebody kind of respond so swiftly to each little answer and cut it off. Okay, you know what I'm saying? Control the interview to where he cannot create a narrative. You know what I'm saying?
That'll take you down a rabbit hole you can't get out of.
You can't get out of. He didn't let Pruitt gish gallop at all.
I get it. That was very interesting, man. Once I saw the entire interview, I was like, oh my god.
And like Kath Casey mentioned, I mentioned this on the last show that I predict that Trump will make a show of this because it'll make him seem like he's ethical, and most likely he's going to take advantage of this because Trump only cares about himself anyway. He doesn't care about who he pushes out the door because for the most part, all these agencies, that he seeks to fill the positions of, he doesn't want to have teeth anyway, so it doesn't matter who he puts in there.
But see, the only thing I'll say to that is, like you just heard him say, he doesn't even have a number 2, right? So I think with this office, this agency, he'd have to know who's going to lead it in the wake of, Scott Pruitt being let go.
Yeah, because he doesn't have another number 2. So I would say maybe right now, based on the lack of staffing of the agency, maybe his job is safe. That's for now.
Right.
But the only reason is because it's like there's just his agency is skeleton crew right now.
Right. So yeah, for the short term, he might be safe, but I don't think he's gonna continue leading his post, man. I don't think so. Yeah. So anyway, that's pretty much all we have. So what we're gonna do is we're going to put the phone number on the screen.
Yeah, we're gonna put them digits on there so y'all can get to calling, get to dialing.
We told you it was gonna be a ridiculous show, man. I mean, pretty much every single
Pruitt,
the Governor Mary Fallon,
Fallon,
Fallon, doesn't matter.
Bacardi
sellout. That's right. The U.S. Supreme Court ruling. It's just crazy, man. Just crazy.
No, we should.
The increased deportation, the
quota,
from the DOJ.
They want a higher quota with not enough judges.
Man, I tell you, man. I don't think we could have came up with a better name than Letting the Madness Begin, man. Every single show, man. All right, so let's get this cracking so we can hear some calls. If anybody has anything that you would like to call about in reference to anything that we discussed on the show, or maybe something that we discussed on a previous show, or maybe something that you feel is important for us to talk about or hear about, definitely give us a call. The number is 669-900-6833. All right, it's on.
I didn't hear it.
I think it's on because I saw the
it's on, but I didn't hear it. You know, it says like,
yeah. Let me make sure. All right, yeah, it's on. All right. All right. All right, we should be up and rolling. Let's give a shout out to Jeremiah, Jim, Jose, and Randon for contributing to the show.
Two times.
Gary, look, maybe he was in the process of doing it while we were trying to shout him out too. I'm not even sure, but thank you very much for the donations to this stream. We appreciate it.
For real.
Yeah, we are trying. Like I said, we're trying to increase this reach that we have.
Increase the reach.
Increase the reach. Yeah.
Increase the reach. Branch out because we are BBs.
Hashtag
broke broadcasters.
Yes, that's what it is. What's interesting, I was thinking about this yesterday, maybe even before that too. You remember how all of 2016, like Facebook was growing, right?
Facebook was growing, like,
but YouTube was not.
Nah.
But then towards the end of 2016,
YouTube
kicked up, and we were getting thousands of views on our videos.
Yeah.
But it seems again like now YouTube is another nut to crack that we just haven't done yet. You know, even though we have what I think is like about 8,500 people that are subscribed.
Yep, 86,
Can't reach
85.
them. Can't reach them.
them.
So anyway, we have a caller that is waiting. It's a 614 area code. Caller, you are on the air live with LTMB. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey guys, it's Andrew from Australia. I don't know what area code 614 is, but it's probably nasty.
Okay, yeah.
So that ain't me, man.
What's your name again?
Andrew.
Okay.
Andrew. But no, I think what we're looking at is there's a paradigm shift in the electorate, right? So the view of people, millennials especially, the younger generations, pretty much everyone up to 45, is that they no longer trust the government, they no longer trust the status quo. Some of those people took that mistrust and went and voted for Trump, but nobody trusts the establishment anymore. And I think people like Pruitt know this, right? Not so much Trump himself. I think he's a narcissist. I don't think he pays a lot of attention to what's happening around him. But the people behind him, people like the Koch brothers, they know they're almost out of time. They've had 30, 40 years of everything going their way, and they know their ability to hold on to this system is almost done. So when you look at the Trump administration, you've got a bunch of people there robbing the bank while they still have the keys, right? That's what's going on.
Yeah.
They're trying to disable every agency that might impede something, they're not even trying to sell this in a way that'll last past 2020, because they know they're done, right? That they know they're out of time. So why are they dropping all this political capital and everyone's going, oh my God, next election they're going to be slaughtered? It's like they know they're going to be slaughtered next election anyway. So the Koch brothers have been dropping millions and millions of dollars for their entire lives, and they realize their ability to continue to do this is almost done. Now, they're going to hold on for as long as they can, but they want these government institutions that are supposed to be good stewards of the country, they want them as destroyed as possible. They want that institutional knowledge ostracized and thrown out, and they want the people who actually care about your country and running it well for the people who live there, they want them gone. They want them out. They want to do as much damage to the apparatus as possible so that when they grab their bag full of cash and try to hide from the riots and the guillotines, right, they've got as big a head start as possible. And then every department you look at with the Trump administration, it's exactly the same story. And I don't think there is no long-term plan here. This is purely disrupt. That tax bill that just passed, they were trying to set the paradigm as far as possible in their favour because they know it's probably their last administration where they were going to be able to do it. For some considerable time.
Man, that makes a whole lot of sense, you know, because that makes sense just looking at how desperate they've become, and like you said, they're doing it almost more blatantly out in the open, but they're trying to kind of deflect all of their robber baron activities onto, like, they're deflecting it into populist rhetoric. And like you said, Pruitt was doing that because the first thing he said was, you know, he deflected it onto Obama and the left. But I think I'm glad you mentioned that tax bill, because that's exactly what I was thinking about too. I wasn't just thinking about the tax bill. I was thinking about immigration. I was thinking about them, Betsy DeVos essentially trying to gut education. I was thinking about the census. I was thinking about Sinclair Broadcasting. I was thinking about them attacking, the Voting Rights Act. Go ahead.
It's a multiple stage thing they're doing, right? So one of the things that I think everyone should be very upset with Obama for was that he didn't just put Garland in the Supreme Court. He could have. He had the ability to do it. He could have done it after he found out the general election was lost. He still could have appointed his own Supreme Court judge, and he didn't, right? And that's inexcusable. I don't care what rhetoric they want to throw at it, right? Basically, he's been working for Wall Street the entire time he was there, and that was just working for Wall Street as well, right? But what they're doing now is, while they're in government, they're pushing things as far in their favour as possible. They've been spending years messing with how judges are appointed at every level, right from the state and the almost county level. They've been pushing their right-wing, pro-free market judges all the way through the whole system, because they've got a multiple stage operation set up here. So when they get kicked out of office, because they're going to be kicked out of office, and let's say, I think there's a reasonable chance at this point you're going to have a President Bernie Sanders in 2020, and he's going to be running on an FDR-style New Deal program, right? Now, I know some people are mad at Bernie, some people aren't, whatever. He's the best-known working-class advocate on the field right now, right? So he's the most likely chance. So he'll get into government, he will turn around, and he will almost certainly try to do exactly the same thing FDR did in his first 100 days, which is write a 21st century version of the New Deal. And when he puts it in, they're going to sue. And then they're going to try to tie everything up in the courts, hopefully for 4 years, to try and then say, see, he didn't get anything done because we sued him into the ground. Right? These people do 5 and 10-year business plans when they're planning out their exploitation of people. Right? So this whole stacking the justice system is just one more stage that they pay teams of lawyers at places like ALEC to plan for these contingencies. Right? So the fight's not going to be done when we get Bernie into office. Right? Because you're going to have left-wing leaders start to win all around the world, because Corbyn is almost certainly going to be Prime Minister within the next 3 years in the UK. He's got a similar, very left-wing agenda, right, that he is definitely going to push through, and they're definitely going to try to sabotage him and delay and do everything they can to disrupt at that point and hope that the public buys the propaganda they're going to push, because they can completely control the signaling apparatus, right? Like, I genuinely believe, like, for those of us who have socialist rhetoric, I'm very left-wing, and I think we don't just need to seize the means of production, guys. I think we need to seize the means of communication as well, because the media is at war with us, just like the capitalist class. Now,
I'll point to something that you said. I'll point to something that you said earlier on, and that was about like Donald Trump and his administration having to do what they're doing now, because what you said is you don't expect them to get reelected in 2020. I don't expect them to get reelected in 2020 either, but I think we can all be surprised, because we lived through the 2004 re-election of George W. Bush, and I remember I was surprised then. I thought there was no chance that he could get reelected, but again, he did. So I think there's a chance that he will. I don't think he will though. But they have to do what they want to now, because if they only have 4 years, they're not going to get another opportunity. So like with the tax bill, with other things that they're doing, they're going to be right out in front. They're not going to disguise it in any way. They're going to appeal to, white supremacists. They're going to appeal to isolationists. They're going to appeal to big business. They're going to appeal to all these things because they only got 4 years.
Yeah, they're going to link people's livelihood and well-being to big business. That's the only way that they can do it. They're going to attach, I guess, people's need to, have economic security to these large corporations. But yeah, man.
Yeah. All right, Andrew. We're gonna take the other call that's in the queue. Thank you very much for calling in, though, bro. If there's some time at the end, though, definitely we can take another question from you, though, if there's nobody else as well.
Yeah, because that's you could just keep talking about this.
Yeah. But we're going to go to 310. What's your name and where are you calling from? You're on the air live with LTMB.
Hey, you guys, this is Jimmy. Tell me if you can hear me, because I'm using Skype.
Yeah, we can hear you, Jimmy.
Man. Loud and clear, bro. Loud and clear.
Oh, good. I don't see how anyone can call, because here in LA, US, the phone is extremely expensive, and Skype is very cheap, You can hold on for hours, and the bill is very low. Anyway, I just want to, kind of, have you guys discussed the Howard University scandal?
Man, we haven't. No, we haven't. Do you have any?
Into it,
we looked into it, and I saw like a few stories on it. But do you have any kind of inside information about that, or like
Well, let me just say, Yvette Carnell, I listened to her program like I listen to you guys, because it's really quite, I'm learning from you guys. Yvette Carnell she graduated from Howard, and she was angry yesterday because they discovered that the head of the university there allowed people to get big pay increases like you were just talking about. And some of the staff there who work in the admissions office, the scholarship office, had taken at least $1 million, and they went about buying everything they could. I'm not sure about new cars, but the latest fashions, and took pictures of themselves in front of Bentleys and everything else under the sun. in their mink stoles. There was a guy with a mink stole there too, a male mink stole. In other words, she was very upset because Howard, apparently, according to Yvette Carnell, who went there, the students are being neglected. Some of the students can't afford tuition there anymore because they raised the tuition under Obama. They raised the tuition. They have less funding from the federal government, and some of the students are having to go home. Having been accepted, they've been there for about 6 months, and they can't afford to stay there any longer. The housing, I hear from Yvette, even when she was there, had roaches in it. Roaches were falling from the walls. In other words, we have people taking advantage of the university, a black university, and taking advantage to the point of taking $1 million, money which could have gone to help students stay in school, and basically could have gone to improve the facility there. If you have roaches falling off the wall in your dorm, that's intolerable.
Yeah,
and
man.
That's what she was saying.
Wow. So it is looking like that is a state of corruption that runs deep within that administration and has been kind of going on without any challenges. And I don't really know how to wrap this up, but like the first thing that came up in my mind when you're telling me about all this, because actually this is not actually isolated to Howard. The state university here, our HBCU, South Carolina State, one of the HBCUs in South Carolina, they had the same problems going on, the exact same problems. And I can't remember how many presidents they've had over the past decade, but they've had the same administrative malfeasance where monies were being misappropriated and not used on in areas where they were supposed to be used, which is on the students. So only one thing I can say is that's just the failure of the black baby boomers, because baby boomers get talked about a lot, but I think I'm saying, I'm serious. I mean, baby boomers get talked about a lot, but it seems to be that really that's just become a euphemism for the white people over a certain age, but nobody paid attention to the black baby boomers, and they seem to have gotten theirs in the 60s. Congratulations. They seem to have gotten theirs and kind of chosen to engage in the same kind of money grabbing, robber baron type tactics as those who supposedly gave them their freedom. And they became very apathetic. And
they made a name for themselves.
They made a name for themselves, and I guess became very comfortable.
Yeah.
And so
we talked about people like Congressman John Lewis, man.
Yeah, you was right there. We did a story on John Lewis and how he kind of he forgets, and he purposely lied on Bernie Sanders to maintain his support for Hillary Clinton. He wanted to downplay the contributions Bernie Sanders had made in the same area that he had made.
It was better for business. It was
to
better
support
for
Hillary
Clinton, man.
And so
I know
a lot
Hillary
of the
Clinton.
black baby boomers have elected to take this position. What's better for business? What's better
for them?
For them, essentially, like I said, they already got theirs, and I respect those who have continued the actual work, like Cornel West. He hasn't dropped the ball on that, but those jokers are few and far between, and you know what I'm saying. So I really that's the first thing that jumped.
So let me say something. I'm one of those baby boomers. I don't think I had it easy, but I guess I did because I was able to stay. Guess what? I don't know. I just got a job because I had to. I had to get a job, and I just didn't want to be poor, and so I got a job. And guess what? I realized that things have gotten really worse for young people. Because when I worked my way through college, plain and simple. I didn't get any scholarship, no nothing, because I wasn't that smart. But I had to work through my way through college, and I did. You could do that in the 70s. I don't think you can do that now.
Oh,
I really don't think
the cost of college has gone up. Yeah, because back in the day, like the time period that you're describing, you could do that. Community colleges, even 4-year universities, it's not the same cost that we have here.
$2,000 for a year, like that was a typical cost or a semester. My bad.
Yeah. These
now it's like $12,000 now.
Yeah, it's out of control, man. So a lot of people, I know a lot of people that can go to college and are educated. They have great GPAs, but they don't have the financial means to do that, and they don't want to take out a loan. They don't want to be burdened with that once they get out of once they get out of college.
And now it's actually almost that the weight upon them as far as like student loans is actually getting worse now. You know how many people I talk to that they got a letter from I guess the finance company, where the money that they're now required to pay per month has all of a sudden skyrocketed 500 to 600%. Like some of the people I talked to, like their bill was like, before it was like $200 a month. Now all of a sudden they're being asked to pay $1,200 a month. So it's not just the student loans, it's the
and this is decades after too. This could be decades after they get out of college, man. They're still paying for it. They got kids, they got mortgages, they got car payments, and they got that bill that comes every month.
It's like
that tuition.
It's like another mortgage.
Yeah, man, and it just never goes away either.
I know, and here's the problem. I'm gonna hang up in a second. There's another problem nowadays, according to Yvette, who has all the data. She says that even with, in fact, I've seen many black graduates, college graduates, still working at the local car rental agency. In other words, low-paying jobs, even though you have a college degree, and that is, that's a bad sign. That is a real bad sign, and this economy doesn't seem very strong. We're basically on prayer.
Yeah, that's accurate. This economy is not strong, and it's been like that for years, and it just seems to be. We just talked about the tax bill that was just passed through the federal government, and that's just going to exacerbate the problem. It's not going to do anything for the middle class. It's not going to do anything positive for the poor people. So these are the people that we need to help if we want to if we want to stimulate this economy, if we want to invest in young people that want to become something of themselves and create something, become an innovator, become an entrepreneur. If we want to do those things, we have to invest in the areas that's going to stimulate that kind of future.
Instead of like inappropriately siphoning money away from them. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Hey, you guys.
All right, Jim. Thank you so much for calling in, man.
All right.
Okay.
All right. We got Ken on the line.
We got Ken again.
Ken, you're on the air with LTMB. What's going on?
Am I coming through all right?
Yeah, you're coming good.
Yeah, always have to check because I never know when I've got push to talk on or whatever. In any case, the only reason I actually called up today, I was just happy sitting and listening for the entire show. But when Andrew called up, the Australian guy, and talked about the underlying needs for actual drastic change in the system and how Bernie might be the next FDR, etc. I think you guys have talked about it before, but I, like a lot of people on the left, actually consider Bernie Sanders the how do you put it, the compromise candidate. Because another FDR would be nice, but FDR, in his own words, saved capitalism, and honestly, capitalism's had its goddamn chance now.
It's had years, right?
Yeah, man. It's had years, man.
It got saved, centuries. And then it decided to continuously shoot itself in the leg, in the foot, and now in the head, maybe twice coming up. So it's no, you're done. You've had your chance. The only problem is, incrementally we can get to there from maybe an FDR platform. The only problem is the last time we did that made people complacent, brought down the discussion about other avenues, and allowed the capitalist classes to then pick off their enemies one by one, basically. So they took out I think it was the order was the communists, then the socialists, then the unions in the 1970s, until finally they didn't have many people speaking out for them, out against them into the 80s with the Reagan administration.
So you think that maybe Bernie has a misguided approach and thinks that this capitalist monster can be reined in, this capitalist monster can be trained, this capitalist monster can be told when to heel and play fetch, and
It,
you know what I'm
it
saying?
potentially can be if you take it and rivet it to the ground until it can barely move with like law after law after law after law after law.
Yeah. See, the only thing that would make that a reality, is people. See, the only thing that would make that a reality is that people actually came together. Because I remember when I think Bernie Sanders did an interview with Chris Matthews on MSNBC while he was running for president. And Chris Matthews, you know, this guy's an establishment, you know, he's a talking head. He always supports the establishment, no matter if it's Democrat or Republican. Yeah.
There's never like a shortage of asses for him to lick.
No, not at all. But he was asking Bernie, you know, how are you going to do this? You have all these big ideas. How are you going to do this? How are you going to do this? And Bernie Sanders was constantly telling him, I'm going to tell the people I can't do it without you. So you need to demand that our congressmen do this. You know, so and that's the only way. Like, we as a people have to actually come together and say, like, we're not gonna stand for the games, the tricks that these people in the Senate and the people in the House that they play all the time, and that they don't actually represent us. If we actually do that and say that if they don't, we will vote you out, and mean it when it comes time for election day, then we could actually institute some change. But are we there?
I think that's
the question.
I think you hit the nail on the head, because you say, you know, until the people understand that these individuals that are elected are really not for their own interests, then we can't get anywhere. But I think that maybe there is a lot of people that maybe feel that they are represented through those people. And what I mean by are represented, I mean they represent what these people think American exceptionalism is, or these people that they elect represent the fantasies of so many American people. Right. So to us, it's clear cut. Like, how come, even though with all this, the gap between rich and poor widening, how come, you know, even when there's consistent proof that our representatives are making decisions based on who gives money for them, even though on both Democrat and Republican side, even though this is clear, the people still support them. Right. The only way I think that can, I guess, be possible is if these people seek to, or the people, us, the American people, are still trying to fulfill these fantasies through them, and I guess receive things through this American economy and this American experience that will not ever come, that don't exist. I think there's too many people that are still bought in to American exceptionalism, to the American dream, to these fantasies of being better than everyone else.
But there's one person that we talked about earlier today that is speaking directly to those people on the Democratic side, and that's Bakari Sellers. See, he's trying to make this argument that
he said, "Oh God, yeah."
He's trying to make this argument that, hey, because of what Bernie Sanders did, hey, just bury him 6 feet under. He has no chance, or he should have no chance in 2020, because he dared bring up the name of Barack Obama when he was criticizing the Democratic Party. So it's people like that.
Did you actually cover that?
Yeah, we talked about that, okay. Because he criticized him and said that, yeah, you know, you should shovel some dirt on top of his future possible 2020 campaign.
Yeah, he died on 4/4.
Yeah, he died yesterday.
I make the comparison between that and what's actually happening in the UK with Jeremy Corbyn right now, because like they're trying to smear him so hard for being an anti-Semite, and it is not sticking. And he actually, I don't know if you caught the news recently, he went to a siddur to celebrate Passover with an actual left-wing Jewish group of young Jewish guys and girls at a synagogue. He even brought a horseradish from his own allotment.
Whew,
so
that's funny.
He goes there. And there's my favorite tweet about the entire thing, and the reaction to it has been like, not Bernie Sanders, sorry, my apologies. Corbyn you are anti-Semitic and there's an anti-Semitic problem in your party. Okay, well, I'm going to go and celebrate Passover with these Jewish youngsters. Like, that's the wrong kind of Jewish person. Not
That's funny.
Anything they can to slander these people, man. That's what they do, man.
Yeah. And that's what I equivalent the whole Bakari Sellers thing with, basically.
Yeah,
like you said, it's and we said that earlier, that politics for a lot of people is very surface based, man. They don't dive deep into the issues. If they did, they will understand the things that you said. That gap between rich and poor just continues to widen, and the policies that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are implemented do nothing to minimize that.
And the representatives purposefully play upon people's kind of superficial weaknesses to kind of keep that covered up. Like I mentioned, playing upon or preying upon people's fantasies about, you know, the American dream and American exceptionalism. But I also think for the most part, the representatives play upon people's fears and fulfill, or I guess try to fulfill people's fantasies in regards to them being xenophobic, them being homophobic, them being racist, you know what I'm saying? Them being, I guess, afraid of immigrants. And so as long as people tend to look at those issues and allow politicians to kind of stoke those fears within them, they're not going to be, I guess, they're not going to be, you know, activated by those larger issues, such as how well they are doing in the economy.
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
If they're filled with foolishness, if they're filled with idiocy and just false information, when the truth tries to penetrate that, come on, man.
So like
no
basically the lowest common denominator is what you just said.
Yeah,
it's
man.
like, where are the people going to go? You know what I'm saying?
All right, Ken, thank you very much for calling in. Like always, we appreciate you adding something to the stream, man.
Yeah, no problem, dude. Like I said, I wasn't planning to call in today, but like I was activated.
We understand, man. We're activated every single time we do a show.
I don't know, when he said that, it made me think of like Autobots or something, like activated, like when he said that.
You know what it makes me think of? Barack Obama, man. You remember that video when he was talking about his legacy?
Oh yeah. Oh no, that's exactly what I was reminded of.
Activate yourselves.
Activate yourselves.
Trying to get black people to vote for him,
him.
or vote for
Hillary
Clinton to sustain his legacy.
His legacy.
Let me get out of here. Anyway, we got another caller, 614. I believe this might be Andrew again, if I'm correct.
Hey guys, how's it going? Yeah, it probably is. I am going to say that I agree completely that like saving capitalism was probably a mistake from FDR. Looking back, I mean, you can do that in hindsight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so sure Bernie Sanders is going to copy that should he get in, though. He's got a thing for what he doesn't say. He's been on the left wing his entire life. He understands a lot of the ideological problems we're talking about, but he sticks to those same like 4 or 5 planks. Right? So those 4 or 5 things that he's sure will appeal to 70, 80% of Americans. And I think he understands that if he goes in 2020 and he's running on a Medicare for all plank, no one's going to pay a lot of attention to anything else because he doesn't need to. Right? That on its own is going to appeal to what, half the Republicans, most of the independents, and something like 90% of the Democrats. At that point, he doesn't need to do minority tactical politics. He doesn't need to. He's got like 70% of support. And if he succeeds in getting that, he'll become similar to the way FDR was, in that at that point, anything else he says, a large number of people who are just happy that they're no longer going to die for insurance company profits are probably going to be inclined to trust him with. So I don't know where his position on saving capitalism is, and I think he's smart enough not to put a public one out. We don't know until we get there, to be honest.
Right.
But
that's
one thing
true.
I did see, just quickly, I saw in one of the Texas races, someone compared how many votes they got to how much money they spent in one of the Texas runoffs. I can't actually remember the name off the top of my head, but they had 3 candidates running, I believe. The person who got the first place going into the runoff was somewhat progressive, but not as progressive as most of us would like, and they spent $20 for every vote they got. The person they defeated, who was the corporate candidate, spent on his own campaign $60 for every vote he got, and that didn't count the super PAC spending that was also thrown in his direction. And the second person in the runoff,
That's usually
the
opposite.
progressive I like more, only spent $2 per vote. Now, these corporate assholes like Alec, right now they've got to be looking all around the country at all these progressive candidates running in pretty much every state, every district, every school board, right? And one of them's going to have a calculator and be going, we've got a problem. Even with their apparently unlimited cash, a big part of their effectiveness has been stopping people from being engaged. If they've got to try and spend like that on every race, mate, they have a lot of money, but they're not getting very good bang for their buck. I mean, the Koch brothers contributed $1 billion to the last election and didn't get the candidate they wanted.
That's true.
Right? So it's got to the point where they're so far away from what the electorate, they're so out of touch. They're pushing agendas that are so far beyond what anyone who actually votes cares about, that they have to spend so much money.
Well, see, that's always worked.
Keep up.
Yeah, it's always worked. Like in past elections, money talks. You know, whoever spent the most money usually won the campaign, you know, usually won the election. So they're thinking that 2016, 2018 is like every other election that they spent time on, that they spent money on, and the same practices is going to lead to the same results. But they don't understand that, you know, politics in that vein is changing. There is large grassroots, movements going across the country, and there's small donations, and small donations add up to a pretty sustainable campaign.
I think what's actually changed, that the thing that matters is that people can't pay their bills anymore, right? So once upon a time, when you had a job that gave you enough money to pay your bills and get your mortgage and send your kids to school, right? You saw something on TV, you saw it repeated 1 million times, you had no reason to question it. And a lot of people didn't. Some people went, hang on, that's bullshit, and knew better, right? But you've got, 2/3 of American households now in economic distress, can't afford, I think it was a $500 bill, right? So now what they've got is they've got a narrative they're being told. They've got people telling them, this will be good for the economy. This thing that we've been proposing for the last 40 years and said we're doing for the last 40 years, and we're saying it'll be good for the economy. And this same person is looking around going, I can't pay my bills. We've been letting you guys run the place for 40 years, and I can't pay my bills. So now I know you're full of crap, right? Because my own living experience right now is telling me that everything you're saying is a load of crap. So now, that guy over there, who I've been ignoring because, I've been paying my bills before, what he's saying makes sense. And what I'm seeing on TV is clearly, when compared to my life experience, a complete steaming pile of crap. So that's it. That's the change, if you ask me. The reality has come home for far too many people for them to believe lies.
I think
William
the perfect capper to your commentary. So I'll hand this over to Will.
We've been saying this for quite a while, since the end of 2016. The pain is coming. The pain is coming, and it's coming to a lot of these Trump supporters. You know, they don't understand. Like, a lot of them do. I think a lot of Trump supporters, a lot of people that either that had some kind of passion about voting for Trump, or felt like, well, he's just a better option than Hillary Clinton. They really felt like, okay, he may really be the jobs president. He may be a change that we need. You know, he may really be the one to revitalize this economy. And I think some of them, based on the approval numbers that we see, the low approval numbers that has been consistent, I think some of them are already aware of that reality, that the pain is coming. But some of them are still expecting things to get a lot better.
They're still bought in.
They're still bought in, and the pain is coming.
It is, but I also think the deplorable narrative that people ran with was stupid, because I can think of a specific person I know. I don't want to name anyone or anything. I was in Illinois last year, and this was a friend's sister. She voted Trump. She vocally supports Trump still. Now, this woman has seen a lot of tragedy in her life, right? She watched her father die when she was far too young. She's lost a child. She's lost 2 siblings to drugs. She took in her brother's kids, and then took in a kid that was actually no blood relation to her, because that kid's mother was a junkie, and said, look, you're already seeing these 2 boys. This is their brother. You can have him too, because I want to go get high. And she did that as well. So this is a good, intelligent person. Right? Now, the sad part is, it's a good, intelligent person who is voting for people who are the opposite of the values she lives. And it's a tragedy, and she does that because the second someone brings up abortion, because she's evangelical, she sees red and doesn't see past it. Yeah. But finding some common ground, these are not necessarily bad people, right? They're working class people. In a lot of cases, they are ignorant of some things, right? There's definitely a run of racism and everything else, but it's born of ignorance that was no fault of her own, if you know.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. Yeah, I wouldn't say that all Trump supporters are racist, or, you know, have some mean spirit to them or anything like that. Of course, we see that. Of course, we've seen that at the rallies. We've seen them talk. You know, we've seen them out on just some candid cameras, you know, that people are taking in different restaurants or areas, whatever, you know, and them saying, hey, you know, Trump is right. You know, just ridiculous stuff. But I don't think that speaks to everybody that voted for Trump. I think, like you said, they're ignorant, and they're really seeking change, and they thought like this person, this one individual, was going to spur that change. And
well, from what I saw, you had 2 choices. You had 2 choices. You had Hillary Clinton saying everything's great, and I promise to give you another 4 years, exactly like the last 8.
That's right.
And I guarantee you that's what you're going to get. And a whole bunch of people in the Rust Belt went, I can't take another 4 years like the last 8. You had another guy come in and say, I know it's wrong. They're lying to you. This is all crap. And I'm going to completely change it up and try something different. So let's see. You've got one option where you can guarantee the person is definitely going to leave you in the massive hole you found yourself in. You've got another person who's giving you a slight chance because you think they're probably full of crap and lying. But at least there's a small chance that maybe something will change. And with those 2 choices, I can't say I necessarily blame people for trying the wild card.
Yeah. We know people. I mean, look, we're in South Carolina. We know people that voted for Donald Trump. We have friends that go back to high school that we know that voted for Donald Trump. And one thing that that is probably common with all of them was that none of them really supported Donald Trump, but like all of them were like, he's a buffoon. Yeah, but did not support Hillary Clinton at all. Like, they had a deep level of hatred towards her, and whether that be rational or not. A lot of it is her fault. A lot of it is her fault. So they just couldn't see that she was a better option than somebody that at that point he was kind of like an unknown. You didn't know what he was going to do while he was in office, no matter what he was saying on the campaign trail. So yeah, okay. So yeah, our live call-in environment ended. Yeah, because
so if you can hear us, Ken.
Yeah. I thought it was Andrew.
Andrew.
Yeah,
Oh,
Andrew. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Andrew, thank you for calling in. I think we were wrapping it up anyway, but thank you for calling in. I'm glad that we got your last comment in.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, man, like I said, the pain is coming. We got to put that on a t-shirt.
The pain is coming.
The pain is coming.
And like a graphic of Trump like squashing the American dream or something. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I know it sounds ominous, but look, that's the reality that we've been, living with for years. And just under Trump, it might become faster.
Yeah, if this first year and a quarter has been any indication of how the next, year, two and a half years is going to go, it doesn't look pretty, man. It's like they're accelerating. They're accelerating this, like, I guess, process of robbing people faster than ever. Yeah,
exacerbating the damn condition, man. So we all are here for the ride, man. And like I said, I don't think, even not knowing who officially is going to run in 2020, I don't think, if I had to guess right now, I don't think that Donald Trump will win again. I don't think he'll be reelected, but again, you never know. It's just if Cat Casey said, no, your current name is ominous. No, we're not going to change our name. We're just going to put it on a t-shirt. Yeah. But anyway, coming in 2020 and probably maybe even 2018, a lot of people are expecting like that blue wave,
They're expecting that.
They're expecting it.
We don't know.
We don't know that.
Yeah.
It seems like it is likely to happen. I will say it seems like it's likely to happen. Interesting thing that I read, just short, in Senate campaigns, it seems like Republicans are running towards Donald Trump because that's dealing with the whole state, right? The states that Donald Trump carried in 2016. So it seems like they're running towards him, but the House campaigns, they're running away from him. They're trying to be independent candidates and not really bring Trump up or anything like that.
They're not trying to bring Trump up or trying to bring themselves down because they've seen the result of when Trump latches on to somebody.
Even in districts where he had
won
by a large margin. Yeah. So like we always say, man, we'll just see how it works. Really, we're just a year into this whole mess. We're just a year into it, and judging from that first year, like you said, they're trying to rob people at a faster rate. So we all got to survive through this time, man. So that's it for us. We're going to wrap this up. Ooh, 10 o'clock on the dot. Look at that, man.
Appreciate the calls from Andrew, Ken, and Jimmy tonight, man.
Jimmy.
We got a double dip of a couple of callers. So that was special. We don't normally do that, but, we got something to say.
Thankful for all that insight that you guys always provide, man.
Always, trying to filling in the gaps, you know what I'm saying, where we left, you know what I'm saying, and can't completing the picture.
Can't forget about the chat. Everybody involved in the chat that make it go. We appreciate you guys always, just giving your thoughts out there, interacting with other people that are in the chat as well. So we like this to be a community environment, and I wish we did have a third party in here so that we can like monitor some things that you be saying. Well, not monitor them, but kind of like highlight them, especially if they're questions, because we just can't see them all during the stream because there's too many things going on.
And again, just want to give another shout out to those who contributed to the super chat. That was Jeremiah, Jim, Jose, and Guillermo, and Guillermo, and twice. So we again really appreciate that, people putting forth some of their hard-earned greenbacks.
That moolah.
That hard-earned greenbacks to the show. I really appreciate it. You could have bought a box of Girl Scout cookies, or you could have contributed some of that money to your Pornhub premium account. But you decided to give it to us.
The chocolate bars at like $1.
Yeah,
you know
man.
Yeah. Some good chocolate right there,
appreciate
man. Yeah, man. So anyway, we're gonna wrap this up, and we will be back on. We'll be back on Tuesday.
Oh,
Aaron, look at
kicking that in.
Good night, guys, and the best chat ever. That's what I'm talking about, Aaron. Thank you very much, man, for always having our back and always supporting us, man. But thank you, everybody. Jose, Grandma Christine, Moose Gal, Jimmy Jim, Warren Fry up in the house. Thank you to all our patrons on patreon.com as well. We didn't get that out the way as well. Yeah, everybody that contributes to us monthly with their hard-earned money that they can be spending on Pornhub.
Yeah.
That's what
my bad, man.
Crazy. But yeah, we'll be back with a number of different stories for everybody next week. We hope that you have a good weekend, nice resting weekend. Get some rest. We're gonna get some rest. We're gonna soak in some information for you.
Just get revved up, geared up again.
That's
right, so
man.
We can do it for another week.
That's right. So, peace out, everybody, and have a good one, man. Peace out.
100,000 views if you chop that.